How are you guys doing? And why don't you introduce everybody, Nick?
Well, tonight we got, I want to correct me if I'm wrong. Is it Piercing the Veil is the name of the podcast, or is it The Truth Is Out There podcast?
It's Piercing the Veil is
It
the
is Piercing
show.
the Veil. So my apologies. The title I put up on the show that we did is called The Truth Is Out There podcast. So I'll go ahead and retitle that one. My apologies.
It's all good. That's just the image that I thought would be appropriate for our chat.
Right on, man. Now, last time me and you chatted, we kind of danced around the topic of men's related issues. You we towards the tail end, we started talking a little bit of the God pill. I know you mentioned about your priest saying don't get married. And
he did say, you you guys didn't have to.
You shouldn't get married. The past week, I had a lot of interactions with the opposite sex. Went on a couple dates, and I had some pretty bad experiences also. And it's been on my tip of my tongue, and I wanted to talk a little bit about men's problems, the society at large, what we're up against. So the bulk of tonight's conversation is going to be centered around hypergamy and the female nature within the, I guess, in the West. I mean, really North America. And we'll also, towards the tail end of this chat, discuss a little bit about inflation and energy depletion. I had a really good article sent to me by Expat Aftermath / Blue Diamond / Foreign Devil. I mean, why don't we kind of first talk a little bit about current events? I'm having a ongoing battle through text messages with Expat Aftermath over the situation in Ukraine. I'm not saying I support Russia or Ukraine. It's none of my business. We should stay out of foreign entanglements. I think that's what George Washington said. Just keep America out of the rest of the world shit. We can do our own thing, right? But obviously, the 20th century, we definitely have not. I mean, we're friends with England for the past 100 years. We really shouldn't be friends with England. We keep sticking our fingers into all four corners of the globe. And I saw a video of that propaganda video that came out of Russia promoting the Z, and
the
Z, right? I don't know if you understand what that is, but I'll build upon that in a moment. So it's a Russian propaganda piece of all these young people dressed in black, all lined up, like total Mao style, calling Putin the supreme leader. Had that whole kind of that Nazi-esque, aroma to it. Something from like the 1930s 1932 Olympics. And I took a step back because I was like, all right, maybe Russia's the good guy. But perhaps perhaps this is kind of like a January 6th for the entire globe, where we're all supposed to, anyone with some type of traditional value, any form of masculinity is all going to gravitate towards Mother Russia. And I wanted to take a step back and be like, wait a minute, I've seen this before. So in reference to the Z, it's a white Z that's drawn on all the military vehicles going into Ukraine from Russia. Basically is an identifying marker because Ukraine and Russia use the same military equipment, because Ukraine obviously was an appendage of Russia for the past 100 years. So the only way for the Russian military to identify it's friendly is by this big massive Z written on the side or in front of the tank, on the artillery equipment, artillery pieces, the APC carriers, et cetera, et cetera. And it's kind of taken on this whole mythology now where anyone who supports Russia has to put the Z on their car. They're wearing Z clothing. And then obviously on the other end of the spectrum is support Ukraine, live strong Ukraine. People hashtag Ukraine. They got their Twitter handles with the little Ukrainian flag. And Foreign Devil sent me something 2 days ago, how the Ukrainian flag, the colors, we've seen that the past 2 years with COVID.
Yes.
The blue, the yellow with the hazmat suits, the yellow with the nurses, wearing protective garments. The blue, the mask is blue. Again, doctors wearing blue gowns, not blue gowns, but wearing the what do you call it? What do a doctor wears? Like their
Scrubs.
buttons, scrubs, the
sure.
blue scrubs.
Yeah.
And he's basically was insinuating that it's just another mass psyop for anyone, that any NPC is going to support Ukraine because they've already been brainwashed the past few years to embrace those colors. And I remember in high school, I just said the word live strong. I don't know if I know Liam's, he's much older, but for you, Pat, do you remember everyone wearing the live strong bracelets?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. The bright yellow bracelet.
The bright yellow bracelets, and it was just a thing. Even I wore one, and then other people started making other live strong bracelets, like, support your local town football team, high school homecoming kind of a thing. Or if someone got sick, someone from your graduating class had cancer, so your graduating class would be wearing those armbands, the bracelets.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard to tell and to get a good footing because both sides are promoting propaganda at this point. And even myself, you already know Russia is famous for propaganda. I mean, they got like a fucking PhD in this shit for what had transpired there for the 20th century. So you can't necessarily trust what RT's saying. I'm in a few Telegram groups. They're heavy, just super pro-Russian. Like, they're not showing any of opposition victories. And then again, on the West, it's the same thing. I mean, Ukraine's got their own propaganda arm, mainstream media supporting them. So it's really hard to gauge what is the actual truth about what's coming out there versus, let's say, the war in Syria in 2012. It was clear cut down the line who's telling the truth and who's not. In this case, we have no idea. And for me, it's becoming much harder to talk about these topics without having a good source of references. It's super hard. That's all.
Yeah, it's so hard to even parse through what's happening from any media outlet. We have events happening in the Donbass region, and then there are attacks from the Ukrainians onto the local Russian people. And then it's coming out that was a Russian attack on Ukrainian people from the different media, depending on who you watch or who you talk to. It's a complete mess. And I will say another point. I've noticed that none of the Ukrainian flags that we're seeing have the coat of arms of Ukraine, which used to be very prominent on their flag, which is the emblem of the royal state of Vladimir the Great. And there seem to have been removing that. Not quite sure why. Maybe they're trying to separate the ethnic Christianity from from how they're presenting themselves to Western media. Because I know from my own personal experience, it's two Orthodox Christian countries fighting each other.
Same church.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think there's a Ukrainian Orthodox Church.
Well, the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, I believe, has some CIA ties. So depending on who you ask, they're not in communion with the Russian Orthodox Church. But I'm not studied enough to know much about, to be able to speak on that as a, scholar.
Right. There's Greek Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, I think
Serbian, Antiochian,
Armenian, right?
Armenian, yeah, Coptic. There are a number of Orthodox churches.
Based.
I have. Maybe you guys can help answer some of my questions about the conflict that's happening there. Is it is it technically a war?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could define it as a war.
Yeah.
Military operation, that's just PC for killing people.
And when I first heard about it, I found out about the tribal origins of their leader, as well as his sexual preference, and I thought that was kind of fascinating.
Well, E. Michael Jones tweeted a video, like a little snippet of him playing the piano with his
Yeah.
funny. And I also saw a video of him basically not in drag, but high heels and like a bikini or some shit. Like, it's just bizarre.
Well, he was an actor and comedian before he was placed as PM of Ukraine. And if you look at the list of people in his cabinet, they're all other comedians, other producers, people who are in the film industry and entertainment.
Yep.
It's kind of sketchy because I believe that he came into power in the Maidan Revolution of 2014, which was a color revolution backed by the Western powers.
Yeah.
And Western propaganda will tell you that he's the most popular president and all these sorts of things. But I mean, they also tell us that Mr. Biden is also the most popular president we've ever had. So you can take that one with a grain of salt.
And that's funny because that's one of the biggest arguments I have with the Normie Con, the NPC, is that, well, they elected him. I'm like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah, come on.
Well, is what's his name again? Zelensky, or what the?
Yes,
Zelensky. So was he a professional actor?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, he's a
comedian.
Actor and comedian.
Actor and comedian. And then you guys had before Biden, you had a professional media personality as a president.
Oh yeah.
And
then before that, we had a created president, you know.
But all Canada has is a fucking drama teacher.
Well, he's an actor, so he's in the right background to get himself put up there in front of the cameras to do the bidding of his masters.
Fuck, man, we're light years behind the States and Ukraine for leaders.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. So I'm circling back to that whole propaganda piece. The problem is like, we've been down this road before. Okay, we get all excited, whether alt-right, conservative, the whole elk, anyone that's not triple jabbed gets fucking excited about these type of things. Oh, Putin went to Mount Athos, he's based, he's all about Christianity. And also the Russian government has cracked down on OnlyFans and, all these Insta thoughts and people, bitches fucking flashing their snatch for a few shekels. I think it's great. I support that, all day, every day. But at the same time, Putin's been at the world stage for over 20 years now. He's 23 years in power, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
it's also a graduate of the World Economic Forum.
Yeah, but that's like early 90s, I think. If I stand corrected?
I don't know the timeline, but I do know they removed him from the website, whatever that means. It's really hard. It's really hard to say. Right. Yeah, exactly.
For us, it's becoming harder and harder to gauge what is happening. It's accelerated even more. And it was already accelerating prior to COVID. So we went from being experts in virology, and I remember my mother was talking about the amount of people that have to learn statistics and math and all these graphs on CNN. Like if people don't know how to do basic algebra at this point, this country's done for. But now everyone has to turn to focusing on Ukraine and
become a geopolitics expert.
Well, for me, I'm a bit of an armchair geopolitical expert, even though it's something that I've never really discussed on the live stream. I've alluded to here and there, but when I lived in Southeast Asia, and some of my friends that lived my buddies that I lived in Southeast Asia with, that's all we talked about all day long. I used to run this theory. I think America is going to try doing a color revolution in Southeast Asia to cut the tentacles off of China. That never happened. It's 10 years now, but I wrote a whole theory on why that's going to happen. I dabbled in, the Middle East a little bit. I know quite a bit about the situation in Syria. I followed that every day, but with Ukraine, there's obviously some parallels between what had happened in Syria, more recently what happened in Pakistan. And the question I have is, are we just being duped into kind of like leaning towards supporting Russia because of, he's kind of a bulwark towards this neoliberal death machine of drag time, story hour, and infinite debt? Now, looking at what they're doing with their economy, it certainly does seem that way. And in fact, I saw a picture today of Bashar al-Assad with the Saudi prince.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Blew my mind away, because these two guys are supposed to fucking hate each other. I mean, the Saudi prince was played a critical role into trying to topple Assad. And a couple of weeks ago, from what from various sources, okay, that the Saudis want to back away from the United States, because they saw what the United States government did to Russia, seizing their assets. And Saudi Arabia has kind of walked that fine line the past 10 years, like getting stabbed in the back. And I think now Saudi Arabia is like, we got to get away from these guys. These guys are nuts.
Yeah, I don't know what to think at this point. It's very easy to fall into the camp of being very pro-Russia in this conflict, because they're saying all the things you would want them to say. They've managed to cut Pornhub, cut YouTube, cut Netflix without really having to make any, I guess military operation is a pretty big deal, but they didn't have to do it themselves. They basically got the states to pull everything out. So I think it's easy to rally behind them, especially with how open to Christianity Putin has been. I believe he's built over 2,500 churches since taking power. He's trying to get rid of, the Western degeneracy in their media.
Banning YouTube.
Yep, banning YouTube. There you go. He also managed to get them removed from SWIFT. And I've heard over the last couple of years rumors about the Russians and the Chinese building up their own central bank and their own petrodollar. And his actions have really allowed him to do that without having to make those decisions himself. And we know what happens if you look at Libya when you want to get off the American dollar.
Yeah. Bad idea.
Yeah, bad idea.
Good idea, but bad idea.
Good. Yeah. You wind up not so good.
But riddle me this. I think it was Big Bear who sent out a message that why would the West want to ban Pornhub when Pornhub is
a weapon?
A weapon.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is
if
very
anything,
true.
you want to pump more pornography into Russia, not take it away.
Yeah. Well, and wasn't it? I think I sent you that article that Owen posted about the creator of OnlyFans is Ukrainian. He lives in Ukraine. He's a Ukrainian. OnlyFans was started in the Ukraine. The story the plot thickens, man. It's incredible.
I mean, that kind of makes sense. Like, isn't Ukraine like a huge sex tourism destination, or at least it was in like the early 2000s?
I believe so. And it's also rumored to be pretty, what's the word? Very lacking its sexual morals.
Libertine. Very libertine. Yeah, I think you're right, because these are the right circles to talk about it. But Rush, I believe, back when he was living that life, wrote a lot about Eastern Europe. And he did quite a couple tours, and a lot of like the Manosphere, Red Pill pickup artist guys, they have, really killed it in Eastern Europe. And it sort of makes sense, when that area of the world opened up to the West and they finally started getting all their media. It's a very poor area. They really latched on to Western media and Western values, if you can even call what we have here values. getting into the nightclubs and, finally leaving their farms, going to the city, living the debauched Western woman's lifestyle. Yeah. So yeah, it's absolutely hard to say.
Yeah, a lot of strange stuff coming out about the country, which is why, and there's a lot of the so-called war in Ukraine right now. It's one of those things like COVID where you can't ignore it. It sucks. I hate it.
Well, it's the new psyop that gets you away from watching all the statistics and all the things about our super flu, so that they can sneak in the next part of the plan. So I do believe that this has all been orchestrated. Like I didn't notice the colors, but after going back, the colors that Lamprey had looked at, I had gone back and I had started following up on that point. And so much of the media,
feminine colors. They're feminine colors.
They are feminine colors, but they were all over everything. I saw a number of edited images that were blue and yellow everywhere. It's wild to think of the subliminal programming that
they're easy colors to like. I mean, I like light baby blue. I mean,
blue is nice color. Blue is the most popular color. Like if you look at surveys and stuff, blue is the most popular favorite color.
Right. Yeah, I know. I got my accent walls are all blue in my place. So I can definitely attest to that. I think currently the MGTOW chat's avatar is blue. Speaking of which, we got to change that eye, and we got to figure out what to do about the avatar now that you're back.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't realize there was a third one to put in there, and I'm still fucking around with the stupid chat.
Well, I see it. You got it now.
Well, it's there, but I can't get it lined up right. Yeah, so whatever. I'll figure it out over time. We'll get it right.
Well, anyway, look. In summary, with Ukraine, we'll keep our eye on it. The rhetoric coming out of the State Department, all the the politicians, obviously working in tandem with multinational corporations, they are really hating on Russia. Well, right before we started, we were discussing how Nancy Pelosi quoted Bono, how St. Patrick, Zelensky is St. Patrick on St. Patty's Day. So
all Ukrainians are officially Irish.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, and Zelensky, the JOO, is a fucking. Well, actually, I think St. Patrick was Italian, and that's
British.
There's a reason, but I'm trying to think. There's a reason why Italians don't celebrate St. Patty's Day. I was told
they're racist.
It was something, but my parents condoned it, and
Italians are fucking racist.
Damn right. Moulian.
Oh man, I used to hear that all the time. My dad's Italian and my mom's Irish, so I got both sides. My dad's half Irish actually, but yeah, I got most of that Italian. New York Italian slang coming out.
Bro, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even if Putin isn't the good guy, which, I mean, listen, war is evil. Like, it's terrible. People are dying in mass. Like, it's not good on either side, right? Mm-hmm. But that doesn't make our side good either. Like, we're not the good guys in this by any stretch of the imagination, which, might get so it might be an unpopular opinion. I'm all about patriotism in America, but I think that we've seen over the last, at least my entire lifetime, just nothing but wickedness coming out of our elites. And as these things escalate and we put more sanctions on Russia, it's only hurting us, really.
Yeah.
But you got to give it up to Russia, though. I mean, they're really doing a great job minimizing casualties, civilian casualties. Other cool thing, and this is, again, I'm fighting with Blue Diamond on this, expat aftermath, that the Russians are sending like their reservists in. They're like teenagers, 18, 19, 20-year-olds to go and fight this with rusty AK-47 and sandals. And the kind of the master sergeants and the officers are all boomers, Russian boomers, teaching the young how to go out and fight. And I'm like, that is so cool. Like, that's how you do it, man. That's exactly how you fucking do it. You don't rely on experts. It's just, it's like boot in the mud, get the fuck in there, no swimmies on. Here's a shitty AK-47 with bad ammo. Get out there and start fucking slinging dick, I give it up to them.
Yeah, you got to think of the type of person who's grown up after the fall of the Soviet Union. Like under the Soviet Union, it was hard enough, but then when it fell apart and Mr. Putin has pulled the country up, even still, there was years of poverty and all sorts of shady dealings going on there. So the average Russian person who is in that age range is hard as fucking nails. Like that, right. Those guys are tough, like right. Legitimately tough.
The Russian boomer who's there teaching these young guys, these reservists, privates or whatever, they lived throughout in the 90s, the fall of Russia. And you have to also take into consideration that during that time, those guys had to deal with a lot of corruption, mafia. There was no police, right? A little drunk too. I mean, So I applaud the style in which the Russian military has presented to us on how they're going about invading Ukraine. Again, using these rookies who've never shot a gun really in combat. They're not using their special forces. They use their paratroopers a little bit. They're using T-72 tanks, which is, again, I want to call it obsolete, but it's a much older tank. They're using older Soviet equipment. I saw some of the gas masks that were pulled off some of the dead Russian troops, all gear from like the 80s and early 90s.
Yeah.
And it goes to show you that the Ukrainians don't necessarily have that much of a military, and I don't think Ukrainians really want to fight.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Like,
that's the other thing you have to take in consideration throughout the past 3 weeks is that neither side really seems like they want to fucking fight. They're like, all right, I'm done. You're shooting. I'm done. I'm out,
Yeah, I brought up that point that Russia was trying to minimize civilian casualties to some normies earlier today, and I got huge pushback because the Western media, these mass media outlets are not presenting it that way. They're talking about bombing civilians and murdering all sorts of people from the Russian side, and I don't believe that that's accurately true, because one of the things that escalated this problem for the last 8 years in regions like the Donbass and eastern Ukrainian states that broke off from Ukraine and started this whole thing was constant attacks and killings going on from the Ukrainians onto their own people there, their own people, quote unquote, because they identify more as Russians in the eastern side than the typical Ukrainians. And the Ukrainian government has actual Nazis, like real self-declared Nazis in the Azov battalion. That's an actual part of their military and their government there. They fly the windmill of peace on their armor. I think that like we said, it is so hard to parse the truth of what's coming out because each side is using propaganda.
Yeah. And it's no different than it's always been.
Right. Yeah. And it's no different than, it has. Right. Exactly. Like we'll know what happens after the fact, maybe 50 years from now. We'll know the truth. Maybe.
Well, I think the truth is speeding up.
What do you mean the tensions are speeding up?
Yeah. Well, for example, with the whole COVID thing over the last 2 years, I'd never until this point in my life, and I'm pretty old. Like I was 28 when, not 28. Yeah, I think I was around 28 when 9/11 happened. So wow. I saw a lot of that bullshit in real time. And what happened this time with this COVID was like an incredible revelation of the method of these
Right.
people to the public. It was fantastic. Like they literally said, here we are, this is our fucking plan, and now we're going through with it.
Yeah.
It was right in our face.
Yes. And if you brought it up, you were told you were a conspiracy theorist, even though they have books where they've written, the book is on Amazon. You can get it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And well, an example, I think I mentioned this before the last time I was talking to Nick, so I won't go on a lot about it. But Klaus Schwab himself on the World Economic Forum website can be seen publicly for anyone to see saying, we chose Trudeau and put him there.
Yeah.
Like it's
infiltrated the governments.
Yes. The whole that whole character, it's right in your face. So at this point, for example, what's happening with Ukraine, I don't think we're going to have to wait a long time to know what really happened, because these guys are in the end game. They're unabashed.
Yeah.
They're not ashamed.
Yeah.
They're acting like psychopaths that actually believe they can't be touched.
It's funny you say that. Again, I don't have a good reference on this, but from what I understand, the mainstream media in Russia is showing videos and of how far gone the United States is and how clown-esque and demonic it's turned into. They were showing the new head of nuclear energy in the United States being this homosexual that male bondage. So they're showing the Russian civilians, hey, listen, this is who America has chosen to be in charge of nuclear waste. This is very dangerous to not just our safety, but to the world's, for peace, for humanity, I guess,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have no shortage of people in positions of power here who definitely are not qualified. They're qualified by their identity, not so much their resume.
Yeah, and, you have that bizarre trans old man is in the military.
What Dick Levine. Yeah, he's like our admiral or something. I don't know.
That's what I mean, man.
Yeah. Admiral of the Jawbone.
You guys, 20 years ago, they couldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
They could not do that. Now they're just propping it right in your face.
Well, the slippery slope is real, man. Like that, people used to laugh at the slippery slope, but it's totally real. Like, and it's escalating and speeding up. Accelerationists get a bad rap because I don't want to see things fall apart, but it's out of my hands because they're putting the pedal to the metal on this one. I think that 2030 plan is like they're dead set.
That's
on
right.
The 2030 plan.
That's what I mean. The behavior is like an end game move, like where you feel like you're beyond reproach at this point. Like you can't be touched. You know what I mean? That's what it feels like with these people.
Regarding accelerationism, I feel like there's a fine line that we in the red pill community walk between fatalism and accelerationism. I was wondering what you guys think about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't. What do you mean by fatalism?
Like this whole black pilling, so to speak, like fuck it, let it all burn. So, like there's a lot of people who still have a lot of the overriding majority, the normies, we call them normies because they're normal, unlike ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. So people that have businesses, people that have families, people that just bought a new home, et cetera, things are going fairly well for them regardless of what's happening around the world. So they tend to put their heads in the sand, ignore a lot of the bad shit going on. We'll ignore the Azov battalion, just support Ukraine. Everything's going to be fine. Get your jab. And then there's people that, would gravitate more towards red pill and black pill content who, again, they might be MGTOW, they might be incels, they just might not have necessarily everything going on for them. People that are homeless, people that have lost everything, they would rather just pull everything down and bring down what is left of the United States. And for the most part, things are still fairly good, despite inflation and everything else that's happening. Food is still abundant, though obviously, prices are increasing, so on and so forth. So I had a chat with what is it, Adam Smith, and he was talking about you don't want to be an accelerationist because you think things are going to swing in your favor. That tends not to be the case. So it's best to try to hold on to what you got and not want these things to accelerate. And I remember we did a chat with Bernard Chapin. Me and Ian did a chat with him 3 years ago, and he's like, man, I keep it going how it is. Don't fuck with it. Just keep coasting because I want to live and I want to die not starving, gnawing at my grandmother's forearm.
It's like a worldview issue, really. Like when you bring it up like that, in the West, we don't have a metaphysical worldview that grounds us and centers us to a larger picture. So for a lot of these people, they just see things happening in no specific order. Things happen for no reason. There's no meaning behind these things. But as I've moved over to Orthodox Christianity, I have a much different view on these sorts of things, and I think it's the nihilism of the West, like the despair and the despondency and the lack of a greater understanding of how history sort of unfolds in a story from God's point of view. And I do think that we are rushing towards the end time, and that's why all these things are happening. Not to be like a Bible beating person, like, the fire and brimstone and all that shit. But I do think that we are rapidly approaching the 2,000-year anniversary of the death of Christ. And depending on who you talk to, that means the beast is about to make himself known. And I think that these people in their Sith uniforms going out there and talking about the Great Reset in 2030, I think they believe it too. And,
they absolutely do, man.
Yeah.
I agree with everything you said, like minus the Christian stuff, because I'm a Muslim.
That's all right.
but yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. And I wanted to add what you just said is that these people, I just mentioned them, the people acting like psychopaths, making their end game move. They have more belief in God than your average normie.
Yeah.
They know what's going on, man.
Yeah, they do.
And to give you an example of fatalism, a recent example, a friend of mine came over yesterday and he told me a very sad story. He said that it was someone in his family. Now he was a Mormon, so he has a huge fucking family. But some in-law married to one of his siblings, their family, one of the older uncles from that family signed up for euthanasia. He man. He just said, I want to clock out. He was older. And I asked, like, holy shit, was he like critically ill? Like, was he going to die anyway? And my friend didn't know. But that is the pinnacle of fatalism.
Yeah, that's literally giving up.
That's just like, kill me. And it's legal here, man.
Well,
that's where our culture is gone.
Yeah.
It's fucking insane.
Get in your suicide pod.
Yeah.
That's brutal. I don't know anybody who's gone that direction quite so drastically from my personal life, but I do know that talking to a lot of young people, especially in I live in the tech world, and I've lived in that that part of the world for a long time. They don't believe in anything. There's rampant depression. There's rampant SSRIs and antidepressant use. People are extremely nihilistic. They're very hedonistic. They just go out for the immediate pleasure. They don't think in broader terms. There's why think in broader terms, especially when you look around at the price of living, just living. Apartments around here where I live, it's not even that expensive in the area. They've gone up some absurd amount, like 32% or something in the last year. Houses are completely overinflated. Like if you're some 20 something, like early 20s guy, and you're making 45, 50 a year, you're not going to be able to buy a $700,000 starter house. Like that's
Right.
not in the cards.
Yeah, me and you discussed that on the last show. You know what you could do is become a mercenary and go fight alongside Azov Battalion, like many Reddit formers have done this past couple of weeks. I don't know if any of you guys are following that story.
Then you post your TikTok for upvotes and get yourself bombed.
Have you seen any of the videos that have come out? Oh, yeah. Hilarious.
And they're ushering those mercenaries directly to the front. They're not giving them gear. They're not giving them weapons. They're not giving them bullets. And I know Russia has sent out press releases where they're specifically targeting those barracks. They're like, hey, you're coming into this conflict. You know, this is between us and Ukraine. You showing up, we're going to go after you. Like
they're going after them first.
Yeah,
Did you see the video of like the 20-something-year-old from like Texas? And he finally made it to Poland after being in Ukraine for like a day and a half. We lost everyone. Everyone I came with are dead. And, you know, whatever you do, don't get to Poland by foot. Don't try crossing the border by foot. You know, hiding someone's
take
trunk.
off your gear. Yeah, take off your gear. They're sending people back to the front if they catch you. Yeah.
The Poles told them, take all your clothes off. Get naked. Just get naked in the forest, then we'll let you in. All right.
Yep. Yeah. And there was I just saw something maybe yesterday or the day before about a very famous sniper from Canada, up in your neck of the woods. He was a very famous sniper from the Middle Eastern conflict, and they got him right away. I'm sure somebody was following him as soon as he entered the country.
They're walking around with their cell phones on, with their Google Maps. What do you think's going to happen?
Yeah.
You know, not for nothing, the Russians and Ukrainians are using, you know, they're using analog, like ham radios and shit. They're not carrying. That's the other thing you have to take in consideration with these guys. We're talking professional militaries fighting. Okay.
Yeah.
Sloppy jihad in Syria, where you're walking around with your potato vision iPhone, recording yourself unloading 200 rounds into a mosque. We're talking professional military using what kind of radios would they use? It just slipped my mind, but like
short band or whatever they are.
Short band radios. They're using military gear to communicate with one another. They're not uploading TikTok videos when they're engaging a formidable enemy.
Yeah, I think that there's like this whole idea that because in the last couple of wars, you know, like all the conflicts in the Middle East were basically the Western forces were so outclassed the enemy by such a drastic margin. I think there's this idea that, you know, they're going to go over there and they're going to just lay waste to the Russian forces, but you know, that's pretty foolish. Russia is a real military. I mean, their gear might be a little antiquated, but they're a proper military. They have training. They're not a bunch of dirt farmers with goats and sheep hiding their weapons that they got from Russia. I mean, let's be real.
Right. They're not the Afghans.
Right. You know, they're not. And I think that there was this idea that maybe, you know, all of these boys would go in there and just show them what war was about. And that is not the reality. In fact, I think that a majority of the mercenary, quote unquote mercenaries, you know, the volunteers have been targeted and killed.
Just to scare the shit out of anyone thinking about going over.
I mean, you know, I'm not saying it's right, but I mean, that is a very good strategy. You know, if you know all of these people are coming in from a Russian perspective, you make a statement. You just take them out right away. And that will deter, hopefully, more from coming.
Well, it's also that I think the Russians learned from Syria to snuff that out as soon as possible, because when the war in Syria broke out, they were kind of lead-footed on reacting towards Turkey, Jordan, Israel, and Iraq about foreign mercenaries pouring in, because if the Syrian army, if the Syrian government would have reacted quicker rather than later, they would have just squelched the insurrection inside their own nation relatively quickly. Would have been done in a few months, honestly. Mm-hmm. And then you look at what happened in Kakistan. Again, Russia warned Kakistan what was going to go to Borat land. Sorry if I'm saying it. I think it's Kakistan, correct?
It's Kakistan.
Kakistan. French Kakistan. They snuffed that out real quick. Only 150 people died. They showed not videos, but showed photos and videos of, look, it's all foreign gear. Look at all the stash of money. Look at all this weaponry. They were trying to kick off something in this country. And I think, in my own personal opinion, I think that was the red line for Russia. Be like, yo, is that what you just did after I had a conference call with you? We had a sit down talking about, working this out through diplomacy, and you pull this bullshit on my fucking border. I'm going in hard power.
Hey, Rusky says he personally knows a Ukrainian from the U.S. who went to fight. So keep in touch with that guy, Rusky.
Yeah, tell him to keep his head down. Jesus.
Find out. Keep in touch with his story. See what he's doing.
Sir, with the whole Reddit forum, Xbox keyboard warriors going over and fighting in Ukraine, from what I'm being told, you get paid $2,500 a week, and it's basically all hazard pay, straight cash. I through the grapevine I learned this, and the problem is getting out. Like if you're an American, you go there for a couple of weeks, you had your fun in Disneyland, and you want to get out. How are you getting out? Because what's going to happen? Are you just going to board a flight in Warsaw and fly back to the United States? Like, I don't think it's that easy to leave. Like the airport securities be like, where were you? What were you doing? Go into this room right here. Thank you. And be prepared to be interrogated by the State Department for your shenanigans.
Yeah, it seems
it's also going to be all criminal elements also. And
that's how you get out. That would be the way to get out. If you have all this cash on you, you find some organized crime and have them get you out and hope that they don't double cross you in some way. Because, if the borders are locked down, they're checking everybody. They're checking people for gear. If you brought your own gear, what are you going to do? That's a lot of money. It's not going to be easy to just put that in your carry-on and cross the border and get on a plane,
Yeah.
Right. They think they're not going to be mixed in with the refugees, which I think would be the case. And how are you going to communicate with these people? I don't think most Eastern Europeans speak English all that well. You're not in France, you're not in England. I know Italy, they don't teach English as a second language, so barely anyone speaks English, unlike Germany, France, and England. Those three countries, I know Germany and France teach it as a bilingual course, but the rest of Europe doesn't necessarily know that. And that the thing is, what I see is you have a lot of let's just call them angry incels who have played way too much Grand Theft Auto, thinking they're going to go over there and shoot some Russian troops. I see this as the opposite end of the spectrum as what we saw with the BLM protest, where it's this omnipotent. It's I'm invincible. Nothing bad can happen to me. And they've never been exposed to violence. Never been exposed to death. In the United States, we have this adverse reaction towards people dying. We don't want to see it. You can go to a nursing home, close the casket. I'm not going to the wake. We're not exposed to, We're
soft and decadent. People don't die in, back in the day, if you survived childhood, you probably saw 5 or 6 of your siblings pass away due to childhood illness or something. We hide death in, like you said, nursing homes and funeral homes.
Hospice.
It's also, and it's a symptom of being terminally online too. These people who don't really live in the real world, they live in the fantasy that they've built in their minds. The same archetype of the people who think that they're going to be the warlord when accelerationism hits,
right,
and everything falls apart. they want that until they realize that they're on the other end of the barrel. And, but people never think that they're going to be the ones who are victimized. They always think that they're going to be the ones in power. There's been a meme going around that I've seen on this that's really funny. And it's basically like the Reddit guy saying like, well, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I was here to bring my military history experience and advise your generals. And the Ukrainian guys are on the other side like, yeah, no, you're going to the front.
Like, you're 21 years old and you can't speak our language. What the fuck are you going to, you're a warm body. You're cannon fodder.
Yeah, you're going to go die. And then we're going to use your death for our propaganda. Showing how nasty the Russians are.
Last month, Brooklyn Monk came to visit me. He was in Tennessee. So I went and visited him. And under the conditions that I'd wrestle him, because we had a huge falling out over woke capitalism. This is going back 2 years ago. And that's one reason why he has not appeared on MGTOW chats, is because me and him had a falling out. Constant arguing back and forth. He took the typical boomer con, G.I. Joe, America's great attitude. And I was sending him articles. I was sending him photos. I'm like, this is woke capital. Do you understand this? And he kept arguing with me about references and where do you get this information. Taking a very fancy, what was Big Bear call it? Fancy pants?
Yeah, lollipops and fancy pants.
Yeah, he's all about lollipops and fancy pants, is what a bow tie and his monocle, right? And I'm not like that. I'm more of a rough and tumble guy. So anyway, digressing. In order to be friends with him again, I had to wrestle him. I'm like, fine, I'll wrestle you. Now, mind you, he's 55 years old, and I knew he's a professional fighter. I'm not an idiot. So when I went to go wrestle him, I'm beating the shit out of him, like in the first, 30 seconds. And sure enough, I completely ran out of steam fast. Like, I'm exhausted. And he just he just tackled me and beat the shit out of me. So I go round two, let's do this again. Beat him up for the first 15 seconds, 30 seconds. I'm on the ground and I'm tapped out. And that proved to me on how out of shape I am. So despite my strength and being able to overpower him in the first 15 to 30 seconds, he had much more endurance than I had. And I'm like, shit, imagine if something were to really go down. I had to run, someone chasing me with like an RPG or
Yeah, you're like, done, man.
I'm done. I'm in deep shit.
You're the one that draws the fire.
Yeah, endurance is a big deal. I've done martial arts for a long time, and your gas tank really makes or breaks you, because you can go all out for that first round, but if you gas yourself out, there's no coming. You never get a chance to catch your breath. No. You can't be like a timeout, hold out timeout from the war. Right. I need to catch my breath.
Hold on, I need to upload this TikTok video real quick. Here we are in Kiev.
I look so cool in my gear. Yeah.
Digress.
Yeah, anyway.
We can change gears here. I don't want to spend too much time talking about Ukraine. Maybe we can circle back to it later on. So I had this phenomenal article that was posted about the origins of Medusa. I don't know if the two of you got to read it all, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Last year, they erected a statue of Medusa in front of the New York City courthouse. It's a very demonic statue. Why would you put that in front of a public courthouse?
Do you think this video will get tagged if I show the naked Medusa?
No, yeah, I would do it. Show everyone.
Okay, the bronze tits, got it.
Yeah, it's it just goes to show who's in charge, because it's an inversion of the myth. It was Perseus who slew Medusa, and now we have Medusa slaying Perseus.
Yeah, it was fascinating article, man, because he was tying it into more of what's happening today, and Medusa representing an oppressive government, like a hedonistic kind of oppressive government.
Egregor, I am. You know what that term is? That sounds like something you would know.
No, but it's in the article, isn't it?
Yeah, I
There.
encountered an egregor directly once. I was in my study one night some years ago reading about the story of James Younger, who was a boy taken from his father by the state of Texas and now is being raised as a girl by his mother. James, caught unfortunately in the middle of a divorce dispute, formed an interest in female characters in children's cartoons when he was 3 years old. On this basis, his mother, Anne Gorgolis, a doctor and activist, enrolled him in gender therapy and began socializing him as a girl. According to Jeffrey Younger, James told him that his mother, among other things, when he protested her efforts, would lock him in his room and tell him monsters only eat boys. When the boy's father initiated court proceedings to stop these interventions, Gorgolius enlisted the representation of powerful law firm Coons Fuller to have Jeffrey Younger. No JOOs. I already looked way ahead of the both of you.
Yeah.
Already looked at the firm.
I was flipping through my Hebrew last names real quick right there.
Oh, Coon, isn't that
way ahead of you? Already went down that path.
Yeah.
To have Jeffrey Younger gagged and stripped of paternal custody. According to courtroom documents, James' initial choice when prompted by his mother for a girl name was Starfire, after his favorite cartoon character. So the article goes on about how basically, because of the gynocentric culture we live in, Medusa is running the show right now, and it's quite interesting because if it's a very long article, I strongly recommend my viewers to check it out. Fantastic.
I can post it in the chat
state there. And we in a lot of these things, he's echoing a lot of the stuff that me and I have talked about the last couple of years, how the apparatus, the over financiers are subsidizing women to take prominent roles in our society when they're not actually producing anything of value. HR department, non-for-profits, NGOs, climate activists, okay? You name it. Women take these soft power roles to subvert basically any form of masculinity in our society as a whole.
Yeah, that other article that you sent about the woman's power index. It was watching like a slowly ticking time bomb. You know, the more women that get into those power positions, it's like, I mean, that's next step to Sodom, man. I'm telling you.
And they're also propped up by their male handlers, because these women, they're getting into these positions, but they're being allowed into these positions. They're being promoted into them.
Yeah.
So they are going to be allowed to be let loose on whatever wild hair they want, but behind them is someone who's saying, yes, that's right, that's exactly what we want you to do.
Yeah, and not so much the women, the women in power do represent something, but what I find to be the more vile of that ideology is just the average women, the normies, who are completely conditioned by that feminist brainwashing.
It's been years of it. It's
generations,
just,
man.
Yeah, generations of it. Yeah.
It's really nasty.
Yeah, and it's creating a false reality for these young women, like the average girl who's not going to be, who's not going to be promoted to these positions of power, but in their minds they believe it all to be true and it's the right way. And it's showing a real terrible example of femininity, what to aspire to as a woman, you know.
And now the transgenderism is just shattering their MK Ultra minds, because now you have men competing with women, and then they can't say anything about it.
Yeah, you're a bigot. You're a bigot if you say anything.
Yeah, it's such evil torture they've done to women, man, in the last fucking 60, 70 years, man.
Let me read part of the, let me read an excerpt here. These massive systems of polygamy, rather than having a masculine character, are in fact organized around feminizing principles of control and surveillance, for they are impossible to sustain without systematic suppression of male impulses to challenge and reproduce. Furthermore, they can only be possible in sedentary societies with centralized control of food distribution. Only where ostracism is death and no exit is possible can the majority of the male population be kept in subjugation. Powerful men rule and enjoy, and the women being under the protection of powerful men, with their free time and proximity of power to devote themselves to creation of religious structures of opinion and taboo, like how wives of wealthy men work at non-for-profits and NGOs, or childless middle-class women become social workers. These religious systems create beliefs which reinforce the regime and structures dedicated to detecting and sniffing out any spark of assertion of male rebellion. Men are inoculated into these systems and made to believe in their legitimacy. The greater their disposition, the more powerful these systems of suggestion and the greater their required reverence. Therefore, they are made to participate in the subjugation and are denied the possibility of accumulating wealth or creating a family. Some, as many as possible, are made urchins. The rest are enslaved through force and taboo. Perhaps this incel class is even pacified with pornography. The numerous clay images of fertile females found in Neolithic settlements would then not be female goddesses, but ancient sea girls, clay girls, intended as substitute wives for unpartnered men. You see the enemy as always been the same. In this way, the ruling class extended to include almost all women cements its power and protected itself from challenges. Does this seem familiar to you? Very interesting.
Yeah, that's almost like the hand that rocks the cradle.
Mm-mm.
You know what I mean?
The hand that spins the dreidel.
The hand that spins the dreidel. That one too. Yeah, I forgot the article does mention polygamy. It was pretty interesting.
Oh yeah, that's going back to social engineering. You know, getting the men to have less power, less paternity. You can't have a family line if you don't know who the child is. The child's raised communally. That's like all John Dee witchcraft stuff.
Yeah, well, probably I guess the strongest point you could strike at if you really wanted to see society fail is the relationship between men and women.
Absolutely, because women are the arbiters of the what is morally acceptable and what's socially acceptable. So if you get them completely subverted and you get their morals and their worldview completely skewed, the men are just going to follow suit, because I mean, you look at what men are doing these days. They try to become the good little boy they think that these women want, and that just disgusts the women more. Yeah, and they just escalate the insanity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's men and women that actually create the human race, right? When they're together. So I mean, that's the foundation of society, literally. Yes. Yeah. So if you split that, you know, you really weaken a culture, and I that's what's happened.
Yeah, because the family unit is where you pass down your generational knowledge, your wisdom, your religion. It's how you create the next generation of people. Mm-hmm. If you have children growing up with no rudder, no direction, they're just going to adopt whatever the culture says. You know, you're not going to have strong people with strong identities and the ability to question these sorts of things if you destroy the family.
Yeah, 100%, man. And that's why that's why MGTOW exists. You know, like under the conditions now, a man would be foolish to get married.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things my priest talked to me about when I converted was that you know, you can have a very full life, a very rewarding full life without marriage. And, you know, I want to be clear about that. He's not saying to go, sow your oats and go, you know, fornicate. He's saying you know, don't despair if you don't have a wife. Don't despair if you're not dating women. Like, focus on what you can do. And I think that aligns up pretty well with the MGTOW message in some ways.
Yeah.
Because I think that if you don't have a partner who shares your values, who believes in having a solid family, who believes in having a male role model, who believes in having children and passing down these values, and can see the problems in the society as a whole, you are not going to have or maybe don't say never, but your chances of having a successful, long-term, healthy relationship with healthy, well-adjusted children is very low.
Very low within the structure we have now. Absolutely.
Yes.
And I mean, and even statistically, a man has to say, this is a bad idea.
Well, yeah. I mean, even if you don't have money, if you're talking about getting divorced and losing half your stuff, like, even if that's not a factor, just the fact you're going to be losing your children and the chances of your wife bringing another man into the house, that increases the chances of abuse, like some crazy percentage. The chances of the children being abused, being estranged from you, growing up hating you. I can only imagine. I have some friends who have gone through these things, and the toll is real. The damage to these people. Like my buddy, he's got a couple of kids from a previous marriage, and it's not healthy. And you can see the pain in the guy. Like, I feel for him, because I could only imagine putting myself in his shoes, and having to deal with the fact that you get to see your kids every 6 months or what have you. And, you're not there all the time. You're not, helping them out through the trials and tribulations of life. Your wife's off remarried or something with some other guy. What's this dude? Who's this dude with my children? What's he teaching them? It's a nightmare.
It literally kills men.
Literally.
It literally kills men, and it kills a lot of men. That is the one thing no one ever wants to talk about, and it's so bizarre.
I also think a problem is, for guys in the United States, is how to be alone. Like, for me, I grew up around my family, my extended family, for the first 15 years of my life. So it's how do you adjust to living in a form of solitude?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the hard.
Well, men are good at hobbies. Have you ever met a woman with a fucking hobby? Seriously.
I could probably count them on my hand.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Men are good at that. So that's what men need to do, like self-improvement through that kind of discipline.
Yeah. The ascetic life, I think, is real for men. As a Christian, becoming a literal monk is always an option.
Yeah,
they're professionals at,
even in Muslim, you can, man.
Yeah. I don't think it's necessarily for everybody. And I think we're going to see a lot more people just never having families. And we're going to see a lot of depression and suicide, because the ascetic life it's not for everybody. We are social animals, whether we like it or not. We got here because our mom and dad had us in a family, ideally, and go back thousands of years, all the way back. Men and women got together because we're better together than apart. We pool our resources. We look out for each other. We have children. It's natural, and what we live in right now is a unnatural state.
It's unnatural, for sure.
We live in a completely, and it was made this way. Engineered this. Yes.
What you just said, basically, now at that point, a man has a choice. He can try to take the best of that and fit into what's happening now, or he can walk away from it. And I wouldn't criticize any man for making either of those choices, but it's fucking tough. It's a tough choice. It's really hard to give young men advice about that,
Yeah, especially since the culture just like throws sex in your face constantly,
Yeah,
and it elevates women to like these power positions where men are looking up to women their whole life, from the cradle all the way through school. Most of the teachers are women. Most of
yeah.
these big figures are about women. Oh, it's her turn and all this crap. It makes it very challenging, I think, for a young man to have to parse through these sorts of things.
Especially
And
now. I mean,
yeah,
20 years ago was bad, but now, geez.
That's a
yeah,
good way into the next article about divorce, according to the Pew Research.
yeah. I mean, like I said, outside of a religious community,
I got it.
outside of a religious community, I think getting married is a really bad idea. Like if you think that you're going to just meet some girl on Hinge or whatever, and you're going to have
Ooh,
happily ever after, you're really smoking
no.
something. Um, if you meet someone who shares your values, I think having children and having a family is the right move. But you always have to weigh these risks. You have to be very aware, one, of how to be a man. Young people don't really know how to be a man. That's completely stripped from our culture. And if you look at entertainment and everything, there's no examples of how to be a man, how to take care of your business, how to manage your
No,
woman.
no.
And then you got to trust that she's not going to get completely brainwashed by the system, because it's all around us. Even like you said, you had a friend who was in a Mormon situation. I know people who moved from the Mormon strongholds of like Arizona and Utah, where the social pressures help to keep the families together. But if you take her out of that structure, you're basically taking your life into your own hands, because women seem to be very, very susceptible to groupthink. And whoever her girlfriends are, if they're whispering bad things into her ear, it may overpower her. Because if the culture is telling her one thing and her girlfriends are telling her the same, you're not going to be able to hold that together on your own. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, well, most of the Mormons I know have been divorced.
Yeah.
I think like it's going to come down to walking away in general from the world that they are offering us. Like what they're offering us is horrible, and there has to be some kind of movement to get out of that,
Yeah.
that entire paradigm they've set up. It's not good. It's not healthy. It's not good.
Yeah. And that's why I've found the Orthodox Church, man. I'm not expecting to find a wife there. Like, that's a small aspect of why um, I'm a Christian. Besides the fact I think it's true, I also see it as a refuge from this disgusting culture that we live in.
Yeah, yeah, man. It's I don't know. Like it's like we're knocking on Sodom's door, right?
Well, yeah, I really
Like
do think
fucking
that
that.
we're in the end times. Like I'm not even.
Yeah, we've been hearing that for decades
I
upon
know.
Yeah.
I know. I think every
It's easy to
generation
sell the
probably
end
thinks
times.
they're in the end times, but it just keeps getting worse. It just keeps getting worse. Maybe not in my lifetime things will fall apart, but maybe in my children's lifetime, if I even have them.
Right, right.
I was talking to Tim Kelly.
That's wait, one more thing. That's another good thing about kids is it makes you invest in the future
Exactly.
in a much, much more real way.
Yeah, you don't care where your money's going or your community if you don't have children. Like you're just
Yeah, yeah,
renting an apartment or moving to another neighborhood or what have you. You don't have investment in things working out long term, because you're not concerned with other human beings and
yeah.
how they have to live, and what you're leaving them, or what you're setting up their future to be like. And
Yes, and
yeah,
that and also because of that, it reduces your despair. You really start to
absolutely.
lose your despair because you really have something to invest in. that's valuable. That's more valuable than anything else can be to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's absolutely true, man.
Men need a mission and a purpose, and there's no greater purpose, I think, than your children. You know, you might be able to have a job and you might be good at your job and a career and all these things, but one day you're going to retire or something, and jobs come and go. You know, if you have healthy relationships with your children, you know, they, God willing, will be around till you pass away, and you get to see them grow up. You get to see them do all sorts of things through their eyes. I've worked with a lot of kids. You know, I don't have them myself, but I've, been a coach and in these sorts of things, and, seeing kids get better at activities and see things for the first time. It's a whole new experience to life. It really does make life worth living, I think.
Absolutely. And to add on to that, we're in dire straits because a lot of people, and it's probably a lot of people that listen to these kind of streams, aren't going to be able to have kids.
Yeah, probably not.
So that's a reality they might have to face. And I'm just happy that it's men in that position, because I'm pretty sure that men with the right focus can still invest well into the future, even if they don't have kids. If that's the choice they have to make. That's the resolute of men in general. So, but yeah, like that's MGTOW for a lot of people, man.
I mean, you say that it's men may be the ones who are not going to have the children, but I think if women don't start figuring out that their fertility is on a timeline and that they can't have it all, and you can't have some high-powered career and then at 40 still have a child, or get picked up by some man that you are actually in love with and respect.
Yeah,
the women are going to have a really hard time.
That's why there's no women to marry.
Women don't give a fuck, but that's the problem.
Yeah,
because they don't give a fuck. They are the ones who should be giving a fuck. They're the ones who should be concerned about making sure they find themselves a guy who they respect, who won't abuse them, who will take care of them. Women take these sorts of ideas for granted, or they don't even believe that it's real or it's a possibility for themselves, so they don't invest in their future.
No, and you got to understand too, that's another advantage men have, which is another thing I think will get them through it, is that you can be 60 and still have a kid, man.
Yeah.
As long as you're healthy, and you can have
our last president, right? When did he have Barron? He was like in his late 50s, I think.
Yeah. You can have kids into your 60s if you wanted to. You just have to find a woman who can have kids. And those career women, once they hit fucking 30, 35, it's game over, man. It's like
yeah, assuming they're not triple jawboned.
Yeah, who God knows.
Yeah, who knows what the fallout from that'll be.
Yeah, fuck. But Nick, you wanted to go on to that.
Well, I want to share a quick story. I'll get into a little personal detail right now about women. So I still fuck around on the dating apps because I'm still new to this area. I don't really know where people congregate or get to know one another because civil society is collapsed. The churches don't really offer much of a venue unless you want to pick up some gilfs or maybe a Guatemalan if you're Catholic, such as yours truly. So I got a message last Saturday. A woman on Bumble, it was inquiring about me and started talking to me, and she seemed pretty cool. I was like, oh shit, like look at this. And long story short, she's showing me what she's reading. She's reading about the Holodomor. She's learning about Stalin. She hates boomers. And from there, I just started having like some of the best conversations I ever had with an American woman, and God only knows how many years. Spoke over the phone.
Ever?
Really, ever. I mean, she seemed like a really cool young woman, a couple of years younger than me or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And and again, I put a lot of energy and effort into communicating with this person, only to be ghosted.
Oh my God. It was all an act.
All an act. And I'm quite troubled by it because it's unlike me to put such a effort in with a woman, and especially sending funny videos back and forth and having a great time. I actually enjoyed having the conversations with that I had with her, really based conversations. I couldn't believe it. Complaining about trannies, and it was pretty cool. I was like, wow, this woman seems pretty chill, educated, master's degree, and just out of nowhere, she just stopped communicating with me. Just out of nowhere, gone, disappeared. And I'm thinking to myself, I know this isn't the first time this has happened to me, but it was the first time where I actually put my best foot forward into having some type of first an intelligent and flirtatious conversation with this young woman. And what I think these are technically micro traumas, and I know the word trauma gets abused, especially by the far left, but what in a sense it does, it removes empathy out of the person, where if I go and have a conversation again with the opposite sex, I will not obviously put my best foot forward. And the more and more that happens to individuals, in North America or any country that uses these type of dating apps, and again, it's mostly the United States that uses them, it boils it down to the most primitive aspects of the sex dynamic, which is sex. And you're like, just fuck it. How much? Send me some titty pics for like $20. I don't give a fuck about you. And you turn the opposite sex into a inanimate object. You turn the woman into an inanimate object, and she turns you into some type of pay pig or a walking dildo with fucking diamonds.
Where a walking dildo with a wallet.
Walking dildo. I said diamonds. You could say wallet. Plug in with whatever you want. And that was quite telling. Two other things happened. I've been seeing a woman who's a little bit older than me, and she's not very good at playing the coy game. She's trying to move into my place, and she's going all out and trying to move in with me. So I noticed that right up front, like her end game is to have a place to crash, or as I like to call it, a hobosexual. So she's trying to sexualize me, and
she doesn't have a home.
Yeah, right. She's in a bad relationship. She's living with her ex, trying to find a place. And
red flag.
Red flag, obviously. But tig old biddies. Gotta make do. You know what I mean? I'm not like a MGTOW where I'm just ignore the opposite sex. I'm not like that. I still go out. I still go on dates, etc., etc. And she went as far as saying, oh, you have to, I hooked up with her, and she's like, oh, I can't crash here. I'm like, fuck no, you can't crash here, because I already know your end game is trying to crash into my place. She goes, oh, you just take me back to my car. I'm going to sleep in my car. I'm like, okay, that's fine with me.
Oh man, the listen to manipulation right there.
And just really bad at the manipulation. Another one, she's 39. She found Jesus, and she's waiting for that special someone. And I'm like, okay, you're 39. You want to have kids? She's, yeah, I want to have children. I go, you're 39, right? She's, I know I'm older, but I know he's out there. I'm like, okay. So you're a virgin, right? And she goes, no, of course not. And I'm like, okay, so let me get this straight. So any guy that comes along now has to wait for marriage to have sex with you, even though you're not a virgin. Am I hearing this correctly? If that's the way you want to put it, I was like, get the fuck out.
How else are you going to put it? I mean, that's I mean, that character, that woman, sounds like a post on the Manosphere or something. Of course, she realizes at 39, after she's had all her fun through her 20s and 30s. With every Chad, or whomever, that, oh, now she got to get serious. She doesn't want to be dumped again. She doesn't want to, she wants a real nice guy, a good guy. Right.
At 39, you're not a virgin. I told her, you understand, any guy that comes along and says that's okay is blowing smoke up your fucking ass, or he's mentally deranged.
Hey, Nick.
Yeah.
All right, Lamprey, I got 2 questions for you.
Yeah, right.
Did any of their names, their last names, rhyme with jerg or blowing?
The one that ghosted me.
That's no. I was gonna guess that one.
I was gonna tell you off air, but she was one of the tribe.
Oh my God. And the other question is, don't you fucking miss Southeast Asia?
I miss the pleasantry of women of Southeast Asia. They know how to flirt. They're smiling. They're happy. They wear the hypergamy on their sleeve, as you like to equate. Yeah, that's definitely something I miss. I did go down to the DR because I met one woman in the Bronx before COVID, and she's much younger than me, and we've been talking again since COVID. And I visited her twice. I didn't tell you any of this, but I went down to the DR twice since COVID to see her. And Sovereign went with me, and Sovereign brought his girl down, and the girl that Sovereign was with had the brother take us around, and I had the brother meet the one I was down to visit. And I go, what's your vibe? Tell me what you think about her. And he's like, no good, no good. I go, what do you mean no good? He goes, she's poor. She's looking for a meal ticket and wants to be shown around acting like she's, someone important. So, and I kind of knew that about her previously, because I'm like, you don't really do all that much. Like, you work like a dead end job, and you don't take college seriously, but you're always uploading videos of you popping fucking bottles and smoking a hookah and dancing. And, it's just, that's kind of, that's very typical of a young woman that's in their 20s. I mean, you can go around the world and see that's the case. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Of course, young women at their earliest age are going to flaunt their hypergamy to the fullest, no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, they don't realize that their sexual marketplace value is like a Christmas tree or a Christmas tree ornament. It's cute. Wow. Let's all look at the tree. Put the star at the top of the tree. Isn't it beautiful? Oh, the smell of the pine. And then come January 2nd, it's in the fucking trash.
It's in the trash, man. 100%. Yeah.
So they live in a delusion. Like, they're delusional. They think that they can do everything and it'll always be there. And when they choose to make these, when they choose to get a guy, he'll appear, and they can do whatever they want, because probably her experience is like a bunch of guys her age kissing her ass to sleep with her, guys bending over backwards to do whatever for her. Mm-hmm. And women don't have the older mentor women explaining to them, like, hey, this party is going to end, and if you don't cash out when you have something good, your chances of it going away or not getting that are very, very low.
Yeah. In a base society, women that age would be married already.
Yeah.
And in a Muslim society, they'd be wife number 2 or 3.
If you can keep her, if you can afford to keep her. I believe isn't in the Muslim world, you need to have them in separate homes. You can't have all your wives in one home.
Oh God, they all got their own rules, but the Quran just in the one passage says, because they asked a lot of questions to Muhammad, and one of the verses is like a response saying, tell them that they can marry 1, 2, 3, even 4 women, and then they take that literally. So it's like, okay, we can all marry 4 women. Let's do it.
There you go.
But it does have the caveat, like you said, though. Sorry, that treat them fairly, and if you can't, it's better for you to just marry 1. So it does say that.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for 2 or 3, I think.
Yeah, I think the only hope is our religious communities. Like you were saying earlier, like getting away from all of this, and in a base society, she'd be married, she'd
You
have
have
these
to
values.
discriminate. So they're talking about Mennonites and the Amish. You understand? You have to discriminate and make sure that no outsiders get involved in what it is you're trying to do, and that's a big no-no in the United States. Because
Well, how the Amish do it though.
well, I understand that. But you have to realize, let's just say the cuck bund, as I like to call it, wants to form their little white ethno-national state in the Ozarks or some shit. You'd have to seriously discriminate against outsiders. And,
Yeah, you would 100%.
And what's going to happen? The women are going to be like, oh, he's nice. You can let him in. It's okay.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really at the end of the day, like, the Italian mafia doesn't let anyone who's not Italian in, it's period, point blank. In the United States, we kind of live in this Sodom and Gomorrah, Tower of Babel type of scenario. And, it's just weird because I had faced the LMS on earlier last year. Great guy, which is an outstanding individual, black guy living in London. Okay. And he was ripping on a lot of these alt-right guys, stating, like, do these guys realize that it's their own women cheering against them to get them fucking killed? Like, they're all about, the preserving the Aryan Brotherhood or whatever the fuck it is. And like, they don't realize that the elephant in the room is their own women cheering for their own destruction.
to die.
Well, that's such a, you can't create anything with real substance or real values around something as ambiguous as the fact that we're all peach colored. That's not going to work. That's superficial. For these types of communities to work, I think it has to be based off of something much higher than that. Like in my own community, my parish, it's a Russian church, but we have Ukrainians, we have British people, we have some Hispanic people, we have some Black people, but what keeps us together is the fact that we're there for God and we're there for the same values, real values, not just, we're Aryan or something like that. Like I think E. Michael Jones had a really, really effective takedown during like the Trump years against the alt-right guys, saying that being white is a figment of your imagination. Like, we're all three of us are white, except maybe Lamprey. I don't know. I'm not sure if you count, but I certainly didn't count until the 30s. I'm Irish. I'm not white according to them, but that denotation or what have you, that changes as the word is expanded and used as a weapon. And I don't think that, I don't think it's possible to unite Germans and Italians and British people and all these people who have the same skin tone, because we don't have the same values. And it's not going to work. We need something higher than that.
Yeah, that's definitely missing, man. It's definitely missing. Those concepts are just missing. But again, if you think about it too, there is a quickening of the people in charge really striking that match.
Oh yeah. That's why I think, it's clearly weaponized against us, because it's a negative identity. Like you say, you're white, and what does that mean? That you're associated with all the bad things, the supremacy and the patriarchy and all this goofy crap that is so easy for for folks to just like fire off, because it's been what they've been indoctrinated with. So you can't take a negative identity.
How come so many people fall for it? It's so dumb. It's so
they're steeped in it from the time that they're a child in school all the way through their multiple degrees. And the more degrees someone has, especially a woman, the more degrees she has, the longer she's been in school, the longer she's been indoctrinated to this crap.
Yeah. That's true. It's getting worse in the education system. Again, that's what they're offering us. We got to walk away from that shit, man.
Just
one way or another. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So circling back to the Pew Research article, we didn't even get you really discuss it. I took
I
some
can throw it up again.
Yeah, throw it up here.
Okay.
I find it quite interesting. I'm going to copy the link and throw it in the notes. Record share of Americans have never married. Now, I've always stated, and I'm sorry if I'm regurgitating old talking points, you cannot have a society with this amount of fucking singles. There's no way on earth this is going to hold. And I remember I had this discussion with you, Patrick. I had a hot take towards the end. Do you remember what I was talking about? If you have this amount of single men wandering around and this shit were to go fucking tits up on us with the perhaps hyperinflation or now a nuclear holocaust, what would happen to all these guys and what would happen to all the dog mommies?
Jog my memory.
Slaves?
Well, I was equating that if look, there's two ways this could go down in the United States. It's either it's going to be this managed decline into a third world state where it'll be polygamy, the powerful will have harems, and everyone else would be part of the new serf class. That's part of the reason why they push multiracial couples in the media so much, is try to create this new slave class, in my humble opinion. And I'm digressing, but you all know that in the third world, especially in like South America, the whites are of a higher class. So if they wash everyone in the United States to be this kind of, again, this coffee colored blend with, tattoos and, smoking fucking hash out of a Pepsi bottle, a Pepsi can, you can slave them and indoctrinate them much easier. That's why we're seeing so much social engineering going on. And though being white will actually be true white supremacy, as it is in the Middle East, as it is in South America, because this Brazilification of the United States is ongoing.
Yeah.
Same with here, man. Same in Canada.
Devon Stack was talking about how much Canada's demographics have changed in just the past 15 years.
Yeah, it's insane.
In 1999, the country was 85% white. And now I think it's down to like 70%. I mean, that's
it's huge, man. I saw it in real time when I came back from Indo. I was like, where the fuck am I, man?
Right. So my
neighbors are Syrian and Afghani. Like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, I know you had a fallout with one of them.
Yeah, I got it.
So anyway,
I told him his wife was his boss.
Oh, that's right. You gave him a prayer rug, didn't you? You gave him like a gift.
Yeah, I had to give him a prayer rug to settle him down. I really.
When I drove up to Vancouver, when I used to live on the West Coast, I drove up through a town called Richmond, and there was not a single English sign in that entire town. And I searched the demographics of the place, and like the street signs were in English, but when you went down the main stretch and all the businesses, it was all Chinese. And I looked up the demo in that area, and it's like over 90% Chinese. Same with areas of Vancouver and that whole west side of Canada, and it was extremely shocking. But I didn't know what, I shouldn't have been surprised really, because I was living in the Bay Area where a majority of the real estate is owned by Chinese investors. And it looks like they've just been buying up the whole west side.
Yeah. And a lot of these immigrants, at least what I can notice around here, is that they're the first ones to put a mask on. They're the first ones. And I think one of the reasons why, I don't have proof for this, but I'm speculating just based on my experience here, is that I do know for a fact that some of the immigrants I've talked to came here through a lottery.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And a lot of them that come here don't speak very good English. So that these aren't like wealthy people that said, hey, let's all migrate to Canada and start a new life. Mm-hmm. No, man, that's not who's coming over here. These people are being literally plucked up and brought here. And my old neighbor said, I talked to him about it, the Afghani. He was like, yeah, it was a lottery and we got Lethbridge. And that's where they took us. So we had to live here. and they just drop them off in these towns and say, here's a car, here's a job. And they're the first to put the masks on. And they do it because they think they do owe the government something.
Right. Well, so it goes to what Lamprey was saying about like a new class creation, because right. When you think about like the demographic shift in America and bringing people over, it's the Democrats, it's the left that's doing it primarily. And if you set up these people who are not from here and you tell them, oh, we're the good guys, we're bringing you in here, watch these news stations, don't listen to the bad racists who hate you and all of this other stuff, they're indoctrinated almost automatically, because they're like, oh wait, they're racist and they hate me, and I'm just here, I'm going to watch CNN and I'm going to put my face shield on.
That's exactly what they do.
Exactly
what they do.
They don't, and they really do feel like they owe the government something, like, oh, it's a type of debt mentality, because they brought them, look what we gave you, and they do give them a lot. Like, they literally give them cars and shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's no joke. So these people are like, I'll do anything you say. I'll fucking do anything you say.
Yeah, they're bringing in voters, and they're bringing in people who support them by setting up the false dialectic that regular Canadian people or regular American people dislike them. They're the enemy. They're wicked and evil. Where I think the average Canadian and the average American, they don't really care. No. They just don't want you to be an asshole. They just don't want you to be destroying things. They just want you to be happy to be in America, happy to be in Canada. Work hard at your job, do well, but it's the layers above us that are making all of this happen in huge numbers, setting people against one another, creating like a solid voting block. It's not the first time it's happened. You read through history, and it's almost always some like strange mix of settlers and native people who create like this weird class who's now the new managerial group that they use to, like, because they're kind of half in and half out of the worlds that they're straddling, and now they're the new managers, and they're gonna handle everything.
It makes as much sense as allowing people into your positions of your government that hold a dual citizenship.
Well, you guys are aware that BlackRock made a statement that Canada needs to get to 100 million people by 2100, year 2100, according to Weissman. Oh, good. So, I mean, BlackRock is pretty much the government of the United States, and probably to a little lesser extent Canada. But I don't take what BlackRock says with a grain of salt anymore. So,
mm-hmm.
And what about the Pew Center, or the Pew Research Center?
Well, we could circle back to that. I really want to talk a little bit about this whole situation regarding marriage, and going back to what I was discussing earlier and what I had stated on Patrick's podcast. So there's the one. Obviously, what we just covered, descending into this neo-feudal, mixed race, Tower of Babel type of situation. The other is if something were a serious black swan moment, out of control, hyperinflation, which we are seeing at the moment, doesn't seem like it's slowing down, perhaps some type of civil war. In the United States, because of egalitarianism, because of this militant individualism that we're seeing, the bugman life, thoughts and doggies, et cetera, the destruction of the community, you would see basically neighbor killing neighbor. You would see these women with these thoughts. What is a pit bull mommy going to do when there's no fucking food in the supermarket? Has anyone have women actually thought about any of this?
I bet you they have.
I don't know. I think you're giving them too much credit for that. I don't think that they have any concept at all of what's happening.
You think it's going to be that much of a surprise for them?
I think
this got to be some kind of like instinctual thing, right? It's like,
they'll instinctually go to the strongest guy they know.
Yeah,
they'll be like, "Oh, time to fucking lay on my back."
I mean, when this whole lockdown situation happened, I know that there were tons of anecdotes of like women blowing up people's phones, guys that they hadn't heard from these ladies in forever. But once the fear became real on the news for them, They instinctually went for someone they knew was strong. They went for security. They went back to basics.
Yeah, and most of them don't have a daddy. So,
well, that's why they're pit mommies. That's why they're out there without male guidance. Because I think if you had a healthy relationship with your dad and you're a feminine woman and you saw your dad and your mom have a healthy relationship and mom didn't give dad too much bullshit, then, she's going to be the type of girl who's going to want to be in a stable relationship.
Oh yeah, man. I've told Lamprey this before, but the first advice I give my son on women is going to be find out if she has a relationship with her father.
Right.
Yeah.
If she doesn't, walk away. No more questions.
That was always the gold standard. Even when I was in middle school and high school, whatever happened to the term daddy issues? Funny how that fell out of our vernacular in the United States.
Yeah. But that's all you really need to know. I think if you're a young man, it's like, if you meet a woman, you have to ask her one question. How's your relationship with your father? If she goes, I don't know my dad. You sit up at that very moment and you say goodbye and you leave.
Well, my thing is, do you have any dogs? That's always do you have any dogs? Do you have any tattoos? Those are my two personal.
Yeah. Well, if the answers are yes to either of those two, it probably the next question about her dad isn't going to be that great.
Yeah.
So according to
just ask. I dated one girl once, and we had that conversation, and I was like, oh yeah, I was just calling my old man. How's your parents doing? And she's like, oh, my sperm donor. I was just like, you're out. Deuces. Any woman who refers to her father as her sperm donor, you gotta let her go.
Wow, that's
she's not
wearing
the only
Medusa
one
on her
I've
sleeve.
heard. When I was before I became Christian, and I was quite the hedonist for many years, and I just heard the same stories over and over again, and it's just time and time again. It's proven ancient wisdom. Things don't change. People don't change. We've been the same for thousands of years,
and they're always the victim.
And they're the victim. Yes, of course. I can't be a good girlfriend to you because of my trauma or for this or that.
Right.
And it's just like
everyone's got a story.
Everyone does. Everyone has a reason why they can't put their half of the relationship up. If you're a guy and you're already ready to have a serious relationship, to have a good thing going, you're looking for the other half of the deal. It's a two-way street. Relationships are a two-way street. You gotta give a little to get a little. They need to give back. You have to not go chase a ton of tail, or maybe you have to not always be out with your boys on Friday night and occasionally take her out to dinner, on that night. You gotta not do things you want to do sometimes to foster the relationship. Well, she also has to do that. And women these days, they don't know, they don't respect that. They don't like that. They want everything to be in their world.
Well,
they're the main character of their story. And they don't want to stop doing anything that they want to do to, come with the other 50% of the relationship.
Yeah. That's what we call female hypoagency. And it's a sickness, man, in my opinion. It's a sickness in our society. And in all my experience, I couldn't put the entire blame on Western feminism, like the political movement of it. You can't. There's something ingrained in instinctual in culture that leans men towards, and society in general, to this hypoagency concept of women without agency, not responsible for their actions.
It's because you want to stick your dick in them. This isn't rocket science.
There you go.
That's true, but also, what I think where that fails is that hypoagency, regardless of whether or not it exists with or without Western feminism, which I do think it does, regardless of that, when you have a culture that doesn't give any responsibility to women, men, on the other hand, are allowed to have privilege for that. When men take all the responsibility, traditionally they're given privilege. That's where polygamy comes from. That's where men rule the household, et cetera, et cetera. If a man's willing to take on the responsibility, all of it, he gets all the fucking privilege, man, period. But now we've taken hypergamy and stripped men of their privileges. And so you have like a horrible consequence because of that. And I there's nothing that kind of boils my blood more than witnessing just normal men allow this complete hypo-agency to women. It's
that damsel in distress BS that we've been raised with, you know.
Yeah.
Got to save the woman, or these sorts of things. So that's another reason why I love Christianity. It teaches agency, responsibility. You are responsible for your actions. Like, we're all going towards the dread judgment. How have you been living? What are your choices? You are responsible. Like, maybe you can't control everything in your life, but you are responsible for the decisions you make and those outcomes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it does bother me, man. You're right, and it does bother me that we see so many men not allowing that responsibility on women, because in the end, what happens is you have good, well-intentioned men kind of blowing their opportunities by just saying, well, you know, oh, women, if they choose to do this, and a lot of the times it goes to the extreme where they'll actually say it's a man's fault. So they'll literally flip the thing, you know, the whole victim narrative. But for women, that's the hypo-agency. They'll flip it around and say, oh no, women that make OnlyFans, it's because of men.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
that's
you should get into that article.
Oh my God.
Which one?
It's so real. The one about
New York City one in 5.
Yeah.
The 1 in 5. Yeah.
You want to live your Sex in the City lifestyle. So sell pictures of yourself on the internet to thirsty dudes.
You know, I want to circle back for a moment when I was discussing about that woman who I was messaging back and forth and talking over the phone about the amount of time, energy, and effort I had put into the past week with this individual. Is that time, the allocated time, could have gone to my job, could have gone. I have 2 exams that are coming up pertaining to my employment that I have to study for, which I have not. And I planned on doing it this week, but I actually got bogged down talking to her. And again, it's part of the hedonistic abandonment. It's throwing shit on the wall and seeing what sticks, which I'm not saying I did that, right? But I'm saying for the average layman who turns to these various apps to try to meet someone, what it boils down to is, if you keep suppressing people's personalities where you can't interact with the other and be yourself and actually put your best foot forward, wear your heart on your sleeve, trying to make them laugh and kind of exposing your true demeanor on who you are about, instead of giving these. I always joke that, you know, when on the first date, you're meeting that person's attorney. You're not actually meeting the true person. No one's going to want to actually display any true emotion anymore. No one is going to display any type of empathy anymore. It seems as if empathy is now a chore, and empathy is a form of weakness, and everyone's becoming more and more sociopathic. And the more and more we go down that path, and I'm using me as a micro example, and I'm sure it's even happened to so many other men out there, what it's going to boil down to is, just make an OnlyFans page. I don't give, fuck you. Just let me see the tits. All right. What am I getting myself? Okay. How much? Oh, wait, you have a master's degree? Okay. So you already make money. You already have your doggy. You already have a house. I'm not wasting my time with you. So the expectations on the individual are not nearly as high anymore, and they actually become lower. Because because you can't feign status, especially where we're going now as we broach the twilight of abundance. And more men are going to resort to things such as pornography and OnlyFans. There's no doubt about it in my mind.
Well, that's something to avoid. That is going to take discipline.
I tried giving up porn for Lent.
And that's the thing, is it's important for men to discipline away from that shit, because it's a horrible distraction. Yeah. Really horrible distraction. And they know it, man.
And
that's why Russia's banning it.
Yeah, it's and this whole OnlyFans thing is objectifying women even more, and it's giving guys bad experiences with women. Like when you meet these kind of like blown out chicks who, you know, expect you to be some savage, nail them on the first date, you know, just be like you know, follow the whole pickup artist routine. You're dealing with people who are ultimately going to disappoint you, because if they're living that life and you want some kind of relationship, you're probably not going to be able to go from picking some chick up, nailing her on the first date, and then finding out, oh no, she's actually quite wholesome and I can marry her and we can have a family and stuff. Like you're looking in the wrong place. You're fishing in the wrong pond for these things.
Well,
you
you're
have to
wasting
really
your
decide.
money.
Right. Well, yeah. And the more you do these things, the more it kind of like deadens your ability to believe that there are good women out there and that you are going to find somebody who you can really connect with on these levels. And if you're going to go on to dating apps and this sort of thing, you really need to know what you're getting into. Like you got to accept you're probably not finding Mrs. Whomever on there. You're going for sex. And if you put sex first in a relationship, I'm not saying it's not important. It's super important. It holds it all together. But if you put that first before finding out who she is as a person, and if she's not interested in finding out who you are as a person, you know, you're going to just keep repeating that cycle of, you know, nailing a girl, having a little bit of fun. The honeymoon's going to wear off, and you're going to realize that you don't really like this other person, or there are too many issues, and it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah. Well, like
that's going to hurt. That hurts women like a ton. It definitely hurts men, but not in the same way. You know, I think it just makes men a little more stoic and maybe a little, I don't know. I do think it does harm how men look at women, because they're going to start assuming that all women are the objects that they are presenting themselves as, because they're making themselves the object, you know?
An object is the epitome of hypoagency. What has less agency than a fucking object?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. It's a commodity. You're applying a monetary value on your body, which you really should not be doing.
An object is used. It doesn't have any agency. It doesn't get to decide. So like what these women are doing is they're just turning themselves into an object. Mm-hmm. Like this one quote, "Holy shit, OnlyFans officially paid my New York City apartment rent this month." One Big Apple scientist shared on Twitter. Big Apple scientist.
What the hell is a Big Apple scientist?
I don't know. It says scientist. I'm guessing Big Apple's New York.
New York she's a scientist. She files slides at some biolab or something. She's a scientist.
She's a scientist that shows her pussy online to strangers.
Right. When she's not wearing her lab coat, she's taken off everything else.
Yeah. That's frightening to a certain degree, where, you know, you could walk down the street and the woman you might see is, oh, that woman looks like she's well behaved. She's not. The scientist, the dentist, or whatever the fuck these women do, you know,
if she's living in one of these big cities and she's got multiple degrees, she probably went to colleges. She probably triple jawbone. She's been to the parties. She's done that life. She's lived her best life, you know? And if you're okay with that, then, you know, you go down that path with her, but I don't recommend it, you know? And I know I'm sure I sound like some old ass man when I say, like, you know, you gotta really have values and shared these deeper shared spiritual views on the world and life before you start nailing a girl, because once you start having sex with her, like, all of that goes away. You can't really see who she really is, because you're feeding into your passion. You know, you're getting a super important itch scratched, and you're in a position where you will overlook so many things just because you don't want that tap to get turned off. And you know, it's
Just go chaste.
Because well, that's, yeah, I mean, go Volcel, man, go MGTOW, and don't deal with these chicks unless you find somebody who you actually respect as a human being before you put your dick in her.
Yeah, like just go chaste.
Yeah, I mean, I read a prayer every night, and it asks to help with, one of the lines is, God help me be chaste, because it's not easy. Chaste. It's super hard. It's a ridiculously hard.
Yeah, it's unfair for me to give that advice because I'm a lot older, so it's different.
Well, I mean, I'm 38, so I'm getting up there myself, and it's not like I haven't done all the dumb things. It's not like I haven't nailed tons of girls from dating apps, and I lived in LA and I lived in San Francisco, so like I've sampled all of these things in my life, but from my experience, that
makes me feel old. What you just said.
Cheers to you, man. Hopefully I'll get there one day, but
I didn't even know what fucking dating apps were back then.
Right. Anyway. Well, yeah. I mean, I picked up girls before the dating apps too, but yeah, it's, from my experience, none of those things have worked out. In fact, they've damaged me greatly. Not necessarily like physically damaged, but like emotionally damaged. Like, you invest in a person because you think you can see a future with them, and they're not on the same page, but they're not going to tell you that. They're not going to be upfront with you about all these things. And women know you better than you know yourself. They know exactly what to say, and they know exactly how to scratch your back the right way, or say what they got to say to keep things going, whether or not they want to be there or not. And if you're sleeping with her, you are going to ignore all the problems that especially in hindsight. You're like, oh man, that was a red flag. Oh, I should have known that was coming. I should have known she wasn't someone to invest in. But you were getting what you needed. You were getting your needs met. And that's a powerful, powerful drug that you are addicted to,
Yeah, man. It is dangerous, but I mean, I don't know. Nobody taught me any better. That's, when I was growing up, nobody taught me any better. So I understand a lot of people don't, that behavior becomes natural into what they've learned.
Well, it's also natural in our society because you see it everywhere. You see the movies and TV, like everyone's hooking up, and it's presented as normal. Yeah. But it's not normal.
Reality. It's not normal. It's
not normal.
No, it's not. It's dangerous. It's dangerous
up until the sexual revolution, it was unheard of in our society.
Yeah.
It was not how things went. It was actually how homosexuals
behave.
Homosexuals behave. Mm-hmm.
It's E. Michael Jones says the hookup culture stems from
imitating homosexuals. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
I remember when I turned 21.
Hey, speaking of gay bathhouses, I got a picture I want to show them.
Oh, isn't that picture great? I wanted to use it as a backdrop, but I was like, fuck it, we'll use it another time.
Hold on, where did I put it? There it is. Dr. Fauci visited gay bathhouse and bars to study HIV.
I went down there to see what was going on. That's real. Yeah, I mean,
of course he did. Of course he did.
Well, that guy's a piece of work.
Oh my God, he went into the gay bath. I was doing research for
he was drugs. He was doing a lot of research, and by the way, buy this AZT. This chemotherapy drug that literally stops cellular reproduction across your entire body. It'll stop that AIDS, but it'll also stop everything else.
It killed Freddie Mercury.
That's why I went to the bathhouses. Wink, wink.
That's how I learned about this guy. Yeah, I lived in San Francisco for a while, and before I was sort of like red pilled on the rainbow people, which my time in San Francisco certainly opened my eyes to a world that I didn't even know existed. But it was so common to know somebody who knew somebody who died on AZT. It was like every other person you meet, if they knew an older gay person from like the late 80s, early 90s, took that drug, died. What else is he trying to sell us?
Yeah.
Surely no new drugs are coming out that this guy's pushing.
Well, I remember when the whole pandemic started, And suddenly, out of nowhere, and it's always like this with the media too, I've noticed, like a personality will just pop out of nowhere and then shuffled off stage left. Like Fauci in the 80s, he was a bit of a personality, but then he disappeared. And then all of a sudden, 2 years ago, here's Fauci just sitting there. And I didn't really know. I was a kid back in the 80s, so I don't remember the introduction and the real AIDS scare that well. And so obviously I didn't know who Fauci was. But then 2 years ago, this guy pops up and he's just talking in this horrible, shriveled up Jew-looking guy is trying to tell me how to be healthy. How can people not see through that shit, man?
My dad said something hilarious. He's like, I knew that guy was no good when I found out he went to Regis High School in the Bronx.
There you go. There you go, man.
Regis boys take bubble baths. That was the chant when the schools would get together for sports games and stuff. The chant was Regis boys take bubble baths.
Yeah, now they take public bubble baths.
Yeah,
motherfuckers.
Yeah, piece of work, man. But the people in charge of our media and our movies and culture, basically the culture creators, have very craftily fused the way homosexuals would date and meet up and go have some drinks and then, go off and do their thing. They've made that how men and women act now.
Yes.
So if you're living a life of, promiscuous sex, sexual revolution, like all of that stuff, it's very real. People can roll their eyes at it, but it's so real.
Yeah.
Well, it's not first it came, okay, so you had the Woodstock, okay, you had that going on. You fast forward 10 years from there, and it was disco. And the boomers certainly did embrace the hookup culture, but they also knew that, okay, they're more grounded to reality because of their parents and their grandparents. Like, all right, I'll fuck around, but I'll be married by the time I'm 25, right?
Right.
And you have to realize is that because of their lifestyle, being debaucherous, getting drunk, crashing their, big monster Monte Carlos and shit like that, cops letting them get away with stuff. I remember my dad telling me the story that he stole a fucking boat and was getting blowjobs on a boat, and then grounded the boat on someone on the beach and had a great time. Like, I never experienced that. And the boomers projected onto their children that I was that fucking crazy. I got to make sure my children don't do that shit.
Right.
And
they never did that.
Right. So then they created the helicopter parent. That's where you got the whole TradCon merged with the state in the 80s with Reagan, where you came up with the concept of deadbeat fathers. Right. That all came from Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
So they wrapped this moral value in the American flag to control the society at large, so to speak, and kind of the loss of civil liberties in the 80s. And now where we are today is, it's living like in a nursing home, as I always like to state.
Yeah, you're really right. You're about that timeline because, the silent generation, they didn't have the sexual revolution. They still did things the old school way. So they were good examples to their boomer kids. And, they always sort of had in the back of their mind the values that were imposed upon them by their parents. But they forgot that was really important, or they took it for granted or didn't care. And they didn't impart it on my generation. Well, I guess I'm not an Xer. I'm like on the border of like Xer and millennial. But yeah, they didn't impart those values. And I think that they took for granted the water that they were swimming in because, until I was in college, like the whole idea, oh, we're a Christian country, we're a Christian nation and all this stuff. I think that they took these ideas for granted because we hadn't been a Christian nation for a long, long time. And, it's even like the disconnect that we have these days with our parents and older generations is they don't realize the state of things because they're not living in it in the moment. Boomers, I think, still think that it's the late 70s or early 80s for everybody. Why can't you afford this? Why can't you afford that? I put myself through college flipping burgers and these ideas. They can't comprehend the fact that times have changed so drastically. And I think that has a lot to do with, just taking the wealth and the cohesiveness of the culture they were raised in for granted. And they didn't impart any of it on us, no. And they allowed all this crap to happen. I mean, I think it's been planned. So whoever you vote for is going to drive the culture, the direction that the engineers want it to go. But no one has stopped it, and no one's realized it.
But you got to look at the bright side, man. We're counting down the boomers. Like there's a few years left.
That is true. But I mean, at the same time, I'm not so keen on that because I love my parents and they're boomers, and I
wow.
Fuck them.
Fuck them, man.
You're dealing with a demographic that has not worked in almost 20 years now for the overriding majority of them. They're so not in tune with reality. They've been hopped up on CNN and their big pharma. So it's okay to take drugs as long as a fucking doctor wrote it on a fucking piece.
Yeah, exactly. Don't smoke pot, but take the doctor's drugs, the ones that make you shake and shit.
Right.
Well, that's a good point. And a lot of them fucking took the jab, man. So that's shortened their clock.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, that's expedited the entire process.
Yeah,
we have to wait as long.
I told boomers, they want your pension, right? So get that fucking jab.
I told every boomer to get a jab. I'm like, hey, get a jab. It's good for you.
I brought that up, that the vanishing pensions and the Social Security funds and all that, to some of my, boomer relatives and people I know of that generation. They don't want to pay you. You paid into this, but they don't want to give it back to you. So, be careful with what you're taking, what you're putting in your body.
Yeah.
But I'm the conspiracy theorist,
Somebody should have told that to Fauci. Fauci, don't go in that bathroom. Careful what you put in your body.
Oh no, he's probably been taking all sorts of things in his body for a while now. He's like some high level. He's older
than Biden. Look how much better shape he's in. He's
older than time.
I mean, that guy, I'm pretty sure that guy is some kind of Illuminati. He's been like the same position under how many presidents now? He's had the same job since the 80s, since he signed the deal with the devil that allowed him to sell AZT to everybody on the news. You don't just show up on the news in those positions pushing these things. No. Like you've made a lot of deals. You've done the right thing. You've said the right words, and you're put in these places.
Well, he's definitely has ties with the descendants of Holocaust survivors. So he's
Italian.
You cannot say that about Italians. It's highly offensive.
No. I didn't say he was. I said he's got
double O's.
I said he's got ties with them.
I mean, yeah, he's definitely involved in those. Like, I'm pretty sure he's some kind of Freemason from back when Freemasonry was still like a thing for getting you into higher positions in the government, high positions in business and finance. I think that he has ties to all of those circles, which all overlap with politics and intelligence agencies. He's an asset.
Yeah. And sometimes, man, I swear to God, I sometimes don't even believe what I'm seeing on television. How do I know it's not a fucking computer generated image? How do I know Fauci's not dead?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. How would I know? Yeah. How would I know? There'd be no way to verify it. Like he literally could just be a fucking computer image, this little crinkly image. And I'm just going and I'm reacting to it.
Man, I don't think old evil people die. They last forever.
Maybe they don't, man. Maybe they don't.
That's him. He knows what he's doing. He's just following the playbook that his masters gave him. Because even, like speaking of this guy and Jawbones and all these things, like, have you noticed how the narrative shifted? What's fallen out of favor as the byline? Like, what's the topic du jour? It's no longer the issues with the plague. It's now what's going on in Eastern Europe, to get people distracted from the fact that both Pfizer and Moderna have applied for more emergency use authorizations of their
they're getting ready
things.
for round 3, I reckon.
Yeah, round 4.
Or round 4. I can't.
Whatever round it is.
Yeah.
Fuck. You think so?
Oh, absolutely.
They locked down, I think, Shenzhen. They're locking China down again, which is usually a weather vane on what's coming our way.
I've heard about that, but remember the last time they did that, they showed us people passing out. That was all bullshit.
Oh, I know. It's wild, man.
So don't trust the Chinese news yet.
Yeah,
until we can verify it.
Face China.
Based social credit system.
Yeah. Well, hey, Lamprey, I got to get going.
Yeah, we could wrap it up. We can end there. I want to, we still got a few more articles, but we could always rehash these and bring this topic up again. I think that was a really good chat. I enjoyed it immensely.
Yeah, it was good getting to talk to both you guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I want to do a quick shout out to everyone. Over on BitChute, and it's on YouTube also. I did the chat with Carl Denninger. Definitely check that chat out. It got, I last time I checked, it's over 3,000 views on BitChute. So I want to thank Carl Denninger. I want to thank all the new listeners that Carl has brought over to the MGTOW chats. I want to thank IAM for making a return. I want to thank you, Patrick, for also jumping on. That was a lot of fun. We should definitely do one with Tom in the near future too, and Eke Lux.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Hey, I just wanted to mention a comment here. Mekong Farong says Trudeau's a hologram. They were honking at nothing. I also wanted to say thanks for everything, you guys. I appreciate it, and it's nice to come back a little bit here, revisit the old community, and I kind of want to go out with an old quote from Mekong Farong that I remember. It was, "Do you think school shootings are just late-term abortions?" It's one of my favorite Mekong Farong quotes.
Well, we're going to see more of those, man.
Pissed Brooklyn Monk off too. That was great when he was trolling Brooklyn Monk. Much props for that. I'll scroll through real quick through the chats here because we didn't even look at any of the chats.
Okay.
You said anything? Yeah, we got to get Ruski on like old times. That'd be good.
Well, that's what I was thinking. If we're talking about Russia, shouldn't we have Ruski?
He's watered down fucking Russian though. He's got a hot pocket in his pornos.
He's watered down with vodka.
He's watered down with the Bugman life. We're all Shabbos goys. Indifference. People making comments about what had happened to me. Hey, listen, I like to share some of my own personal stories. We're all human.
Yeah, that's the thing, one of the things that got me through a lot of BS 8-10 years ago when I discovered the red pill world and the MGTOW world, hearing other people's stories and realizing you're not the only person who's been, who's gotten.
Yeah.
You're not the only one who's out there trying to make something of yourself in this absurd culture that we live in. You're not alone. It's important to hear these human stories and realize we're all people.
Well, and people make fun.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's always good. Make fun of me. I mean, please make fun of me. I'm all about it. I've made every mistake in the book. So, I mean, who am I up here telling people to be chaste and, find God? I think you should, but that's your decision. I can't make you do nothing, but I'll tell you from going through tons and tons of hoes, it is empty and it doesn't leave you at nearly 40 with much besides, I got a career and I got these things, but I'm one of those people on the statistics that we talk about, the never married people who should have been probably a long time ago in a normal society.
Yeah, but that's why there's MGTOW. You can't look
exactly.
at it that way. You really can't.
MGTOW guys don't really play that game. They might have in the past, but not now.
Yeah, I do think going your own way is really important, and not fall into the we talked a little bit about it on my show when you were on, Lamprey, about the black pill and like this idea of like just giving up. Like you can't give up.
Fatalism.
Nihilism is that is not a hole you want to wind up in. Like you got to figure something out. You got to make the best of your situation, do what makes you happy, build yourself up to the best person you're going to be. Cause like, what's going to happen? You're just going to be a leaf on the wind of this insane crap. And every new thing is going to affect you in some type of way. Like you can't let that happen. You got to grab life by the balls and make something out of it.
Yeah, man. Learn a trade, start a business, learn a skill, a valuable skill. Those things are good to do. Those are good investments as well.
Hit the fucking likes. Give me 40, guys. Please. 40 likes. Get to 40.
All right, man.
So lined up. I don't know if you want to join tomorrow night, but I have a chat with one guy from Terror House Magazine. So
Magazine.
I forgot to mention it to you before we started. I'll message you on the side about it if you want to.
Sounds interesting. Tomorrow.
And he might be a sodomite. I'm not too sure, to be quite honest. Yeah, I know. I'm not.
Oh, you're breaking another chat's rule.
Yeah, I know.
What's he doing, man?
I don't know. Listen.
If he's unknown, there's nothing you could do, and he wouldn't be the first sodomite we had on this.
This is true.
Right, fair enough.
We did have the roller derby guy.
And we had our one that had to be taken down under our own volition with the guy from Switzerland. What's his name?
Oh, you're talking about Jay?
Double Stuff.
Double Stuff, yeah.
He was pretty cool.
Yeah, he was cool.
All right, man.
All right, guys. It was good talking to you guys tonight.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, always. Okay. Be wise, be safe, be MGTOW.
All right, we're muted and the stream is stopping. Let's end it here. That's it. It's over.
It was good stuff, man.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I was just puffing on some cannabis and listening to your guys' stories.
Puffing on that endo.
Yeah.
Nintendo.
It's weird for me. Like I like to hear your guys' stories because it makes me kind of jealous and relieved at the same time. Because I don't understand that world anymore, but I kind of wish I did.
The online dating world.
Now. I was gonna blow up on this.
Well, yeah, just that whole thing, man. It's fucking fascinating.
Dude, talking about the Holdemore, complaining about boomers. She just hates all this, degeneracy going on, and just disappear.
Her ex-boyfriend showed up.
No, I have no idea, not a clue, and I know better not to fucking ask questions.
I guess the Berg. I guess the Cohen.
Yeah, man. I've been in the same spot, like everything's going well. Maybe you're hooking up a couple times or something, and then poof, gone.
Well, the warning sign was that she invited me out like twice, and then became like skittish or something. So my last experience with a woman that did that turned out to be someone with a severe personality disorder. So the way she was, texting and talking kind of threw up a few red flags.
What kind of radius are you guys looking at when you do that?
She's close. She was about 20 minutes away. So,
but what's the average? Like
12 miles?
It's all over. It's all over for me.
Huh.
Yeah, you live kind of a little farther out. Like I live in Atlanta, so like
Big population density.
when I was still dating around, you just put the thing on 15 miles or something, and it's just like,
Interesting.
you know.
So you could just meet complete strangers in all within a 15-mile radius.
Yeah, you
But
meet a
they don't
complete
match with you. That's the thing. I mean, I get
Okay,
matches,
right. You
but
got
they
to
don't
match.
really respond.
Right.
Yeah, there's like a whole art to the texting thing, like when I was doing all that, you go from the app, you try to get her number, you do like a little couple back and forth, tee whatever, get her number, text her a couple times, set up a time to go see her. By that time, she's already decided that she's going to sleep with you basically, or that the possibility of it is going to happen. So you just got to like not talk yourself out of it.
Because that's basically the objective, right? The objective is
that's the whole, especially a girl who's on those apps. Like, girls can say whatever the hell they want. Like, they're on there to get laid, just like guys are.
It's prostitution. It's self-employed prostitution, basically.
Yeah, they are looking to hook up just as much as a guy is, and if they're on a dating app, it's like a fucking magazine full of dudes. Like, who is hot enough that I will possibly sleep with, and then they just swipe on those guys, and if it works out, it does. And I mean,
you have to watch your P's and Q's because they can just fucking,
well, they're making money too, most of them, even if it's a free meal.
Yeah,
there's value in it. So it's prostitution, man.
Yeah, basically, she's like an escort. You
sure, an escort.
You take her out somewhere, and maybe you have a drink or two, and an hour into the thing, if she's not leaving or like making up some bullshit, you just like, hey, let's go have another drink at my place. If she says yes, which I mean, most of them do, you're in.
Yeah, it blew when I first heard about OnlyFans, it blew my mind. I was like, holy fuck, like women without any persuasion, like you don't need a pimp, you don't need a boss, all you just need is the ability, and they'll just start taking their clothes off for money. Yeah, it's absolutely insane.
The female state, the natural female state is when she feels comfortable, she takes her clothes off. That's what they want. And they know that they have power over men by their beauty. Because all women know what a beautiful woman is, whether they say it or not. Women are, they're like naturally bisexual almost in some kind of ways, because they know that other women are attractive, and they know that they're attractive.
Well, MGTOW might disagree with you there. I think women make themselves look attractive, but the reality is, and I've talked to Nick about this, if you take off all their makeup, take it all off, take off all their high heels, everything they do, and you look at them real close, they're kind of ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially a girl who wears a ton of makeup. If she wears a ton of makeup, she's probably hiding bad skin. Well, and then that keeps the ball rolling. Like, bad skin, you hide more makeup, it makes the skin worse. Yeah. All these, like a lot of these girls, they don't have any sense of diet or nutrition or health. Like, they're not doing healthy things. They're on a dating app. They're on OnlyFans. Yeah. That's completely unhealthy.
All they've got for them is a little bit of youth that the time's ticking down on, really. That's all they really have. And I think Esther Vilar said it the best. She's like, yeah, men are actually attractive. Think about it. All they have to do is wake up in the morning and they look good. A woman has to fucking wake up, comb her hair, put on her makeup. So
maybe then, before the days of seed oils and everything, where people are pretty unattractive these days. But a guy who takes care of himself. Yeah, I brush my hair. Like, I don't need to do anything.
Yeah, barely get ready, man. I don't
like the vanity of women demands them to spend so much time trying to look attractive.
Yeah, because their entire identity is outside of themselves. Like, they get their validation and their sense of who they are by the reactions that other people have to them. That's why they take so many selfies. They're always looking at themselves. It's a very narcissistic.
Very narcissistic. Women are very narcissistic. Extremely. By nature.
extremely.
By nature, yeah.
And it's funny because like when Esther Villar talks about that sort of thing, like it's funny because
She's tongue in cheek when she does it.
Right, but it's also like women's idea of what an attractive man is only starts when they're already attracted to you. Like they don't register the fact that they say all these things only about guys that they're attracted to. Like that's the baseline. Like guys who they're not attracted to are invisible. They don't exist.
They're invisible. Yeah. 100%.
So when she's talking about guys being attractive, just waking up, it's because in her mind, the guy she's talking about, she's already attracted to, and then what keeps them, what really attracts women is dominance and a guy who's built something out of himself. All the women I've dated who have had long-term relationships with me, they want to be me. They don't really love me. They are jealous almost of who I am. They want to have all the things that I have, and it bothers them that I'm the way I am and that they can't be that way. And it's like a really unhealthy, like instead of accepting the fact that you have a man because he's better than you, like you're attracted to a man because he is more accomplished than you, taller than you, more dominant than you, all of these things. They get pissed off that they are not you. And that creates tons of tension, especially in this stupid gynocentric world we're living in, where they're taught to pretend to be men. They don't see a man as being attractive because of these qualities. They see him almost as competition or something that they would want to be.
Yeah, it's bizarre, man.
It's really crazy.
It's fucking bizarre. Have you guys ever ghosted a woman?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, fuck yeah.
So who do you think does it more, men to women or women to men?
Oh, I think women to men.
Yeah, women to men. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been my guess. Just critical thinking would have been my guess, but that's not what the media says.
Right. Men are presented as going after everything that moves and constantly cheating and living this life, but that's just projection from women. I think that's just.
I think so.
It's all just projection. Like women, but it's because they're insecure by nature. Like whenever I've had multiple times girls thinking that I'm off cheating on them or doing things with women because that's where their mind goes, because they're sexual creatures by nature. That's all they think about because it's what they are.
Yeah.
They create life. Like what's the difference between a man and a woman? Like she has the baby.
Yeah.
Like she's the vessel for life. And so everything in their reality is based around sex, whether they admit it or not.
They become so psychopathic, man. So since relocating,
they're all on drugs.
I'm still catching up with Chris because we texted here and there and spoke over the phone like a dozen times since we last signed off last year, 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. But I've been on so many more dates since relocating to the South. And
that's right.
The quality, look, I like going on as many dates as possible. The key is it's like atrophy. It's like if you got to practice it, you got to go on dates because you'll lose that ability to talk to the opposite. So even if I'm not attracted to the woman, I'll still go on the date to keep fresh. In New York, I got no dates, like zero. But the quality women in New York are just, light years ahead of the quality women down here. Down here, there's more.
So you've lowered your standards.
Oh, it's just full-blown dumpster diving down here.
Yeah, because
that's wicked, man.
Yeah, I mean, women leave these areas to go to the big city because that's what they're told to do.
Yeah, ugly women are great to fuck, man. They're great to fuck.
Never make if you want to be happy for the rest of your life, never make a pretty woman your wife. I think that I think that is something to that because women they get the world presented to them because guys want to fuck them. So when you meet a girl who maybe grew up a little fat or something, or she's not, she's like an adjustable 6 or what have you, she's probably a little more of a human being than the super hot chicks because she hasn't had everything so easy.
Yeah, there's always a level of attractiveness on a scale where they start to become unattractive. Do you know what I mean? Like once a woman, and maybe this is taste, maybe there's something kind of universal about it. But once a woman gets, I guess, too attractive objectively, you kind of aren't attracted to her as much. Because honestly, when I see women that attractive, I don't really trust them.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to trust like a really hot woman who
yeah, I wouldn't trust
who puts
them,
a lot of
man.
effort into that, because you know what that means. Like, you know, all the bullshit behind that. You know, I find that I've dated some pretty knockout chicks, and ultimately it's you know, once you get that, once you do a lot of dates and you bag a lot of girls, and you know that you can do it, if like, you know, like you're saying, you got to keep the knife sharp by dating and keeping practiced. You know, once I got that down, I have to say, like, their personalities started to make me not want to sleep with them. Like, it was not that they weren't hot anymore. It's not that they weren't like a 9 or whatever. I was just so disgusted by like their attitude and their actions that I didn't even want to sleep with them anymore. Like, it's just like, you are really hot to look at, but once you start telling me about,
once
like,
you open your mouth, man,
once you open your mouth, it's true. Like, and you know, these women all have like the most, like, some of the worst attitudes when it comes to like the way they talk about men, the way they talk about children, the way they talk about any real values or anything of real substance. You know, for most of these girls, it's just like TV and what's on Netflix.
Yeah.
Bullshit on TikTok. And
girls don't have hobbies, man. Ask a girl what her hobby is. She'll say, looking at my phone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Instagram.
That's my, yeah, man. It's twisted. And man, this talk really makes me miss Southeast Asia, Nick. Because there you could just meet a girl that can't speak English at all.
She's happy as a pig in shit.
She can't even speak English.
Yeah.
You're just like, yes, you have nothing to say.
But you know, my ex-girlfriend, I mean, I was like, why do you stay with me? She goes, you let me do what I want. I'm fairly independent. You know, we got along pretty damn well, man. I think about her time and time and again, and now she's in fucking Italy. She lives in Milan. I give her a lot, you know, kudos to her. I'm
Good
happy
for her.
I dated a girl from South Korea who could barely speak English. We got along great. We got along absolutely
great. She let you be a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was a sweetheart. She couldn't order half the thing, you know, so I just ordered for her. I was like, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. She'd come over, she'd bring beer, you know, soju and stuff. Like, I was like, this is good. This is nice.
It's amazing. A woman that is forced to say little.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, man, if I was to ever get married again, I'd go back to Indo, find some young woman who didn't speak a lick of English. Done.
How long were you married?
Only 5 years until this separation, until she left. So not that long. It was horrible. Like, just what a eye-opening experience.
Yeah.
And it makes me, that's why I can never, you know, look a man in the eye and just say, yeah, just get married. It's the best. Yeah. I can't do that. I was
engaged. I was engaged when I was 28, I think. Yeah. About 10 years ago now. Ooh. And had I married that girl, it would have been a living nightmare. I'm so glad she turned out to be psycho before we got married.
Right.
But that entire experience, you know,
that's a good lesson if you get through it, if you can.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it didn't kill me. So it taught me a whole lot, but it almost did.
It could have killed you. Yeah.
Well, she was also a complete psycho. So I was completely emotionally manipulated and like all wrapped up in her world and our world. Like, we lived together and all this stuff. And she was off doing whatever the hell when I wasn't paying attention. And, you know, going through that shock and realizing that, like, you're in love with an animal and you're sharing a house with an animal who lies to your face without blinking, lies to you, makes you feel like you're nuts because you feel some type of way about something, can do it without flinching.
Right.
You know, and you're living a fake life. That was almost too much for me. You know, it really shook my world.
Yeah, I imagine, man. Yeah. Well, thank God you survived it.
Absolutely. Thank this guy.
Oh, really?
I got Jesus back there on my wall. So.
I'm not looking at that. I'm sorry.
It's all well. You know, it's funny because I ran into like the MGTOW chats, and I ran into Rolla Tomasi and the Red Pill and Pickup Artistry and all this shit, and I was able to in my autism go back through my relationship once I learned stuff about female nature, and I was able to like see it all after the fact, like, oh, this is that situation. Oh, I read this in like The Rational Male. And then I saw in my own relationship, in my own life, that exact same pattern play out over like all of these different things. And it was like reading a book about narcissism was like reading a book about the relationship I was in, and like these toxic relationships, codependent, and all these things. Like it blew my mind because I'd never, it was all new to me. I'd never read any of that stuff. I'd never even heard some of these topics, and I realized like how deep I was in like a really toxic relationship.
Yeah, that blindsides a lot of men.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, that shit that has to be taught, to the next generation, and it just isn't. Yes. It wasn't taught us, man.
Yeah, our parent, my dad, he was kind of like an old school alpha guy. I think he just took it for granted. Like no one ever really needed to teach him how to get girls or to be a guy, because his grandfather was, his dad, my grandfather, was a dude. He was just a guy, right. And like they were raised in a time when we weren't bombarded by all this feminist shit. And like, it was just natural. Like, of course women act this way. Of course men act this way. Like, it's just how it is.
No nonsense.
Right. But we were all brainwashed. So we need to basically be taught like bullet points of, this is how you act appropriately. This is how not to act. This is how women act. This is how you have to deal with it. We didn't get any of that stuff that they took for granted.
And it's a minefield. It's a minefield. And if sometimes you can make mistakes that.
Yeah. Sometimes you step on the thing and it goes off.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's over.
Yeah. It's done.
Yeah.
It's dangerous, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times it's when you don't even really realize it. It's like when you give into like, maybe saying like, oh man, yeah, that really freaked me out. Even saying something like that could just blow up your world with a woman, like even admitting any kind of like, or not being sure of yourself, or, saying like, oh, like, yeah, I'm stressed at work, or I'm not sure how this is going to work out. Like not showing confidence, like in enough little places and like in innocuous things, they're done with you. And a lot of times they're done with you way before you realize it. They'll just lie and they'll go along with things and they'll just be a part of it while they're looking for the next branch to swing on, and you have no idea as a guy. You just think like, oh, we're really, we're on a level where we can talk about everything with one another. It's like, no, that's bullshit. You don't do that.
You're being deceived. You're being deceived. Yeah. That's rough, man.
It is rough, and
treat them like whores.
Well, that's why I've taken the chaste or chaste route. But then, but at the same time, Nick knows I'm stuck. Like I'm in a really bizarre situation, man.
What's that?
Grand.
Oh my God.
Who's in child support. On top of that, there's all these other collection agencies trying to get in touch with him. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, this guy's life is ruined.
Yeah, he's probably in jail.
That's one of those landmines, man. That's one of those landmines you don't survive. It's really bad.
How could you even think about it? You can't get the state involved. You can't have a license. And it makes you wonder, like with the Hispanics, how they go right underneath the radar because they're not divorcing. And what they do is they show that they are divorced and then they fucking double dip on the Bennies when in fact they're still together.
Well, they know the system better than anybody because they've been playing it since they came over here, like
they game the system. It's dumb fucking Whitey that follows the rules.
That's right.
Well, the problem is though, is if you cohabitate with a woman, it's basically marriage.
In Canada,
it's not like that there.
Not in the States.
Fuck, you guys are lucky, man.
Yeah, we don't have common law here.
Yeah, you're lucky.
Yeah, that doesn't exist. So like most people, I think these days are just doing that. They just live with their girlfriend or boyfriend.
Yeah.
I think that's another one of those. That's another one of those questions. Like, like we're talking like, oh, how's your dad or how's your relationship with your father and these sorts of things. What do you think about religious marriage? If you drop like, I'll get a religious marriage, but I'm not getting a state nonsense. If that's a point of contention, she knows the benefits that she gets from legal marriage.
Right.
That should be a big red flag. You know, because if she really loved you and she cared about you and she was on board and wanted to have your kids and be in a family, maybe she'd be like, well, I don't know about not getting it, but you know what? I'll get married in the church, or I'll get married in the mosque or whatever. Like, we don't have to do the thing, because she needs to want to marry you and be your wife more than some piece of paper from the government. She needs to be
that she can benefit from. Yeah,
exactly. Like,
and marriage is just not right for you if you have to think that way.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I got to get going.
All right, man.
Well, it was really good talking to you, dude.